Taking off in 5, 4, 3, 2. Or not. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. No intro, I guess, for us today. I tested this shit out beforehand, and it worked.
You can do it after the fact. We'll add it back in.
No, I can't. I refuse to do any extra work. No, I'm joking.
Fuck it, here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, off to the races. Hello out there.
This is like when you order your appetizer and the entree, and like you make it clear that hey, we want the calamari, but then I'll have like the burger or something like that, and then both come out at the same time. You're just like, what the fuck?
I don't actually mind that too much.
I don't want my shit cold because I can't eat. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna eat a burger and calamari at the same time to eat it while it's like, at a decent temperature. You're gonna let one get cold.
This feels like America. We can do what we want.
I mean, sure, yes, but like, I want my burger warm or hot or like fresh. It's I want the fries to still be a little bit hot while I enjoy my appetizer and then bring the food out.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't care.
Doesn't bother you?
As in the podcast, it doesn't bother me that much.
All right,
the intro didn't play.
Back to the intro.
Welcome to the Fade Podcast. You one-stop shop for everything TV, media, and related, along with the end of the goddamn thing we'll talk about. Coming to you live direct from Concept Studios. What the fuck is up?
Just have to take the gum out of my mouth.
That's fine.
Can't chew gum.
Do you still do gum in 2023? That's still a thing.
Yeah.
What's keeping? Are you single-handedly keeping the gum industry alive?
Yeah, bro. There's like so many different new gums are out. Like, have you been down the candy aisle lately?
Stupid. Yeah, all the time.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie.
Sometimes right now,
I go down to the
candy aisle too much.
I go into the candy aisle sometimes, and I'm just like, "There's no way Reese's Pieces, or however the fuck people say it."
Pieces. I feel like
I say Reese's Pieces, but some people say Reese's Pieces.
I mean, that's literally how it's spelled. But
I'm not doing that.
Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I went down the candy. They've got so many fucking types of Reese's now. It's insane. They've got this new one. It's like they put potato chips into the Reese's Buttercup to give it like a crunch.
Yeah, I saw.
You've seen that?
Smacks.
It's good. It's good.
Smacks.
I saw
it's a salty and sweet.
Yeah, then they got the cups. They got the big cup ones. They got the the white chocolate
talk
big
about
cups.
The big cups that you're probably a little depressed if you go get a big cup.
But if you get
I get it all the time, so I must be really.
If you get the king size, I saw the king size big cups, right?
Yeah,
where they had 4 king size big cups in one pack. 4. That's fucking insane.
It should be illegal.
Yeah. So this true story. This literally happened today. So on the way here to record, I stopped at the gas station, and I'm probably gonna get fucking canceled for saying this, right? But like, I feel like there are times we all judge each other.
Yeah,
let's be real about that. There are times when you see someone and you're just like, I see you as you are, and I would have made different decisions, but you are who you are.
Yeah.
And then I'm in the gas station, I'm getting a drink. I stop through the candy aisle because sometimes I just like to go and look, and I'm like, damn, they've got Butterfingers with like extra crispy wafers, or the waffle wafer Butterfingers, like god damn, or they got like the graham cracker Butterfinger, like wow, they keep inventing new shit.
Yeah.
And then I see the people in the and here's how I know they have the big cup king pack,
it's
because somebody had it in their hands, and they had the Almond Joy king pack and a large. Do you know how like 7-Eleven has the big gulp?
Yeah.
They had one of those too.
Yeah. At least they're trying to be a little healthier with the Almond Joy.
The king size one. 2 Almond Joy, because the regular one comes with like 2 Almond Joy and a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of coconut and almond. But the king size one has like 4, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't think I just know what works for me. And I just think that being obese doesn't work for me. So I think that's like I feel myself getting.
Hey, we're not fat shaming here. I don't want to get canceled.
No, shut up, dude. Like you can.
You gotta say it. You gotta say it.
No, you don't have to say it. Like no. Here's the thing.
Not today. People are way too sensitive.
No, I know people are sensitive, but people are overly sensitive about people being sensitive.
Because the sensitive people are very, very sensitive.
No,
That you gotta,
it's because everybody's sensitive, meaning that if somebody says something offends them, you're like, how dare it offend you? Like, I can't believe the thing that I said would offend you. It's like, okay, if they're offended, they're offended. If you stick by what you said, okay, stick by what you said.
That's fair. I'm about to say a lot of shit that's offensive anyway. Continue.
No, I think people who are you and maybe other people who might find the shit that they say like offensive, or other people might find what you say offensive. I feel like you, in some ways, like thrive off of that, and so when nobody finds what you say offensive, it's like I must not be saying the thing I want to say.
There are some people who like want to, like we watched what was the thing you showed me the video of the other day? Yeah, keep going. The guy from the show, the Fresh and Fit, the guy Marin or whatever.
Yeah, Myron.
Moron. That's what I call him. That guy. Yeah. He is, if he says something and you don't react to it, I feel like in his mind, he's like, oh, I got to go deeper next time. I got to say something even crazier because you didn't react to it. Sometimes I just want to be able to give my opinion without feeling like, fuck, there are going to be people who are like genuinely deeply upset at like my very small opinion, right? So the moral of the whole me telling this story thing is like, I think that, I find it interesting of how people gauge their like when is enough, right?
What do you mean?
Some people have a high barometer, some people have a low barometer of like being able to gauge like, all right, what is too much when it comes to like being like consuming too much, right? Like some people might.
I just broke my goddamn phone.
Yeah, that's why you need a goddamn case on it.
I have a case. Why do you keep saying this as if I don't have a case?
Okay. Oh, you got a new case?
Yeah.
Okay, good for you. But some people will say, oh, you should never tell someone when their enough is enough. But like sometimes you could look at a person, you could be like, hey, like, I think enough is enough, right? Like, for example, if you're out drinking with friends, right? In those moments, we say, hey, you're advised to tell your friend, hey, I think you've had enough to drink. Give me your keys, don't drive home, or like, have some water, right? Because you're concerned for their safety. In other areas, we can't do that. Like, I can't tell my friend, hey, dude, I think you need to stop eating so much food because I see you're not in great shape, you're not in great health. While that may not affect you immediately right now, you're not going to drive down the street, drunk off of a cheeseburger and kill somebody. You're going to kill yourself later. Yeah. But one is viewed as like, hey, that's insensitive. That's like, shaming someone, blah, blah, blah. The other is like, hey, I'm trying to protect you from yourself and protect you from
because are you actually trying to protect them from themselves? No, it's just that you see something, because there's some people who are say like bigger, but they either eat healthier or like everybody like fat shames Lizzo, but she's like a vegan who eats pretty decently from what I understand, and so it's like a thing of just like we go more by what we see than what like reality actually is,
But at the same time, sometimes the eye test is a good test. Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, like, and so it.
When it comes to obesity, though, don't you feel like the eye test is usually right?
I think it depends.
I think Lizzo's a good example. Like, Lizzo is a performer. She's on stage often. The amount of calories and energy it takes, and like she's not just a singer, she doesn't just stand there and sing, she is like a dancer and a performer, right? So she's doing a lot, she's putting on a whole show. And I've never put on a fucking concert, but like I've seen artists like at the end of their show dripping sweat because they are exerting so much energy in their performance, right? So you look at Lizzo and you're like, all right, Lizzo's a vegan, she's a performer, she's on stage every night. The question people ask themselves is like, why is she still so big? Though she's a vegan, though she's a performer, though she has probably access, the financial resources to have access to like the best foods, right? Like all organic, natural, fresh shit, right? What is going on? Because the eye test, it's failing the eye test, but it's, I see the tweet, I see the information, the articles that I know that says she's this and that, and does this and that, but the eye test is failing.
Yeah, I don't know, and also I don't give a shit. Like I think for me, that's my basis of it, is I don't really care. Like because I'm not gonna sit here and fake care like about like Lizzo's weight. Like I don't care. Like if she's being unhealthy, all right, do you, boo? Like if that's what you want to do, if you have an unhealthy lifestyle, if she's bigger but she eats healthier, okay, same difference to me. I don't give a shit. Like I don't really care. Why am I concerning myself with Lizzo's weight? It doesn't matter to me.
That is
this
true.
has no impact on my life, you know? So, and I'm not saying that we can't have opinions about things that don't have to do with our lives, because we literally come on this podcast every day and talk about shit that doesn't actually have anything to do directly with our lives. Although we're interpreting art, so maybe it does. But I think people try to turn these conversations. It's like when people talk about like, and I'm only saying this because I was just listening to something like a podcast about it. But when they talk about like transgender bathrooms, right? It's like, are they really fucking worried that somebody's going to come in there and like actually like snatch their kid up? It's just like genuinely, this is the actual concern, right? Or is it the concern you just kind of just don't like trans people, or you think it's weird, so therefore? And I know you might have.
Yeah, I think we've had this conversation. I have my thoughts.
We've had conversations about it, but it's my belief that people don't actually care. They just use it as a mask to say like they actually just hate transgender people. And so they just use that as like the guise of like, well, no, we can't have this because it's going to cause so many issues. When in reality, it's like,
I think there is an in between, and I'll share my thoughts on it. Like I'm all for it.
You're going to say two very contradictory things.
Sure. And you know what? We do that all the time in our lives. I'm all for it. Like if there was a law in Maryland that will allow, hey, like vote for anyone to be able to use any fucking bathroom they want to, or vote against it, I would vote for it. Now, my kid is in the bathroom. I'm not going to say you can't use it. You just can't use it right now. You're going to have to fucking wait a minute or two. That's it.
And I'm not going to sit here and get into a back and forth about that.
But I know it sounds contradictory, and I know it probably is going against the thing that I say I'm for. I'm for it, just not in a situation when it makes, not I'm going to say makes me feel uncomfortable, but just when it creates. I know. Trust me, I know.
This is the reason why I have issues when people talk about weight and things like that. Is because ultimately, like you were about to say, is this?
There is a conflict. Yeah, it's not like. Sometimes it doesn't fully add up.
Well, this is true. I will agree with this, but also it doesn't really have anything to do with you, but yet you center yourself around it, right? Like, so for instance, people talk about Lizzo's weight as if it affects them. It affects them in no type of way. And then they'll be like, oh, well, then people are going to be thinking that other people are going to have like, pick this up as like the right way to be. And it's just like, well, I think people are going to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Like, I think people, there's for every example of Lizzo, there's an example of somebody who's painfully skinny, who's not Lizzo, who's all they do is concern themselves with how they fucking look. In fact, I would argue that's what our society is. It's just people just massively obsessed with how they look and develop things like body dysmorphia and shit because of, shit like this, where, the media paints it that they should look like a certain way. But that thing isn't really healthy in and of itself. Being a supermodel or whatever the case is, that's not particularly healthy depending on how you approach it, right? But nobody says anything. The same people who talk about Lizzo don't talk about that at all, right?
Yeah, I do love and respect Lizzo for that. I saw her response to it. Like, she was saying something like, she took some time off of social media because she is just someone who's just constantly attacked, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, "Hey, I got back on social media today, and the first thing I see on social media when I look at all my mentions is people talking about my weight and my body again, right?"
Yep.
And her response to it was just like, "Hey guys, I'm just out here trying to be happy." Like,
at the end of the fucking day, like I feel like when people get thrust into these like sort of like, when they get thrust into the spotlight, it's like every inch of their life becomes like, well, you should be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this. This is the way you should look. This is the way you shouldn't look. This is the way you should think. This is the way you shouldn't think. It's just like, bitch, I was me before I fucking got here. Like, I write music.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think Lizzo is like out here screaming for attention. No, like the Kardashians might be. Shit. I think she's a musician and an entertainer.
Yeah. It's just that people aren't used to seeing somebody who looks like her do the things that she does, and so they get
from a woman. We've seen men do it, right? Men do it all the time.
Well, I would argue, I don't know how many plus size men are like twerking.
Notorious B.I.G., Fat Joe, Big Pun, Rick Ross.
Yeah, I think they just stood in one place and did what they had to do.
Sam Smith, he's doing it now.
12 XTs. I think that's
true. I guess Fat Joe didn't. At least he wasn't showing ass intentionally. It's just it
was always by accident. Whatever would happen. Yeah. I think that's at the end of the day, that's kind of like what my argument is that people are really concerned with what other people do, even though it has pretty much like no bearing on their life, but they'll use the excuse of like, oh, the poor kid, you're setting a bad example. But it's like, they don't really fucking give a shit about setting an example. They just hate the people. They just need a way to sound like they have the moral high ground, right? Is that I'm doing this for a greater purpose, or I'm being a piece of shit for a greater purpose because I want to save the kids. Meanwhile, there's like 12 kids on your block right now who have like food insecurity, right? Who go to school, or
who are just fucking hungry,
school, and who are just hungry, and you're like, fuck them kids, right? Like, and so I don't know. I just think that.
Like Florida's banning books about transgender people in school, like how they talk about obesity in school, how they talk about racial issues in school, right? They're banning all of these things in school, but like, and I saw the governor of like the state of Minnesota, he was talking about it recently in they were doing some fucking vote about something.
Are you talking about DeSantis?
So the governor of Minnesota was talking about Ron DeSantis, Florida, right? Okay, and he was basically saying like, while they're doing in Florida, they're banning books. In my state, we're banning hunger in our schools, meaning like every child will have a meal.
It's a hot bar.
Right. And Florida is like, oh, you can't have this book because it talks about race. Like you can't have this book because it talks about like sexuality.
Yeah.
But, there are kids in Florida schools who like are hungry.
Which is like I don't know, man. It's like a wild thing to be like obsessed about. Like, are we not over this? Is this, we're still banning books. That's where we're at. That's the level of discourse that we're having in society, is what books should we set on fire, which shouldn't we?
Yeah.
And if and like some of these books, it's like if it just mentions the idea of like race or anything like that, or just like has even like a black character, or like somebody who's just like not something that's talking more about inclusion than not. It's like, oh, this is somehow it's sexually. It always gets thrown to like, this is sexual in some way. Let's ban it. Like,
I think Florida actually is passing, or it's either passing or like it's been proposed a legislation to ban. I think like it's like the Old Testament or something like that, because it was like too violent. It was too graphic and sexual.
Wasn't that like a mistake? Like they basically like set like a law, but then when they started looking at it, they were like, oh wait, shit.
Yeah, this is going to ban
the Bible.
Bible. Yeah. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah. Well, but then you look how quickly that'll either get repealed or like not enacted or whatever the case is because it's like, wait, this is the shit that we want. All right, fuck it then.
I heard it put the absolute best. And I'm sorry, I forget where I heard this. It was like an Instagram video, and it was talking about like how essentially like the Republican Party or conservatives see things. Right? It's not that they want you. Damn, I forget how it goes, but essentially it's like conservatives and Republicans, they want you to live your life by their standard, right? Whereas they're like, hey, we decided these things are acceptable, these things were not. And if you are against those things, then that means like you're like you are the problem in society. Like you're the thing that they want to attack because you're not living your life the way they see it. What they don't understand is that their choices are just that, choices that they've made, and not all people have to abide by their choices. And like for some reason they just don't understand that. They're like, well, I read the Bible, I go to church, I'm like I'm conservative, I wear these pants and I wear this shirt and I tuck my shirt in at home.
I saw something the other day that was like fucking hilarious, and I think it was kind of a troll, but also maybe not. And if somebody can find the Instagram out there that had this post, but it was like it said, if you use Apple, like you're gay if you use Apple Pay. And I was just like, it was like a troll, right? But then I was just like, but people were like actually like answering underneath, like whether it was gay, and like there's some people who were taking it serious, like, yeah, yo, if you don't use like a card, like that shit is mad gay. And I was just like,
holy shit.
For one, are we that paranoid about being gay that we're just like, let's just call everything gay?
Bro, Thanos was right. Like, this is what it always comes back to. It's like, we should get rid of half of these motherfuckers.
Like people, for one, people are that concerned about like being gay is like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing in the world, that it's just like, you just have to use that as a blanket for like insult for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this is why when people are like, when you're like, oh, like calling stuff gay, it's like why that can be kind of like, all right, I can see how that's kind of fucked up, because you just use it for like insulting people. Like that's your way of insulting them. Is that you're gay, and it's like, I don't even find that insulting. But why do you find that insulting?
Yeah.
But then two, it's like when we're at the level, especially like I think there were like I was specifically looking at people's like profiles as they were like commenting, and I was seeing like obviously like based on their profile pic and yada yada, it was like a lot of like black people that were like engaging with this. I'm like, this is so fucking stupid.
That always bothers me the most.
Yeah.
whenever I see people from a group who have been marginalized and, you know, oppressed, and who like have throughout the course of like American history, world history, been a part of a group of people that have been told like, hey, like you don't have the right to be the way that you are because of the color of your skin, your religion, your hair, whatever the thing is. And then those people still make a conscious effort to say, hey, we are also going to marginalize this other group of people.
Hurt people.
Yeah. But like, I get that. You know, it sounds nice, but like I really do lean towards like at a certain point, we can't have sympathy for everybody. Like if you are choosing stupidity and I treat you like you're being like you've chosen stupidity, it's because it's because you did. Like if you are a black person, you're like, no, I hate gay people. And I'm like, you are a marginalized group of people and now you're trying to marginalize them. I don't have any patience for that logic.
I think this is what distinguishes me and you, is that I think we see it the same way, but our the conclusions we come to are different, right?
Yeah, I feel like we're like Malcolm and Martin sometimes.
I like how you just, you know, I guess you're like
Professor X. No, wait, I would be Professor X. You'd be you'd be Professor X.
I'd be Professor X.
I'd be Magneto.
Yeah.
What was his real name? What was Magneto's? It was Charles Xavier's Professor X. Magneto was.
Damn, what was Magneto's name?
Was Magneto what I need to call him? Magneto called Professor X Charles. And
yeah,
then he would call him.
What he,
fuck, you gotta give me a clue. I should know this. And essentially, that's who they were modeled after.
Oh, I don't think we would have known this.
What is it?
Because nobody ever calls him this.
Give me a clue. First letter of first name.
M. His first name starts with M.
His first name starts with an M.
Yeah. There's no way you're gonna get this.
Mathis.
Oh yeah.
Matthias.
No, wait. I don't know. I'm getting conflicting reports here. So
there should be a clear answer of what Magneto's real name is.
Oh, well, his birth name was Max Eisenhart. His alias is Eric Leischer.
Yes, Eric.
Leischer. Yeah, Eric. So Eric is what I remember him being called, but apparently his actual first name is Max. I don't know.
I've always disliked the name Max.
Really? I mean, well, I guess you hate HBO now.
I do, yeah. I saw that, and they were like, and then I had to download the new app, and I'm like, what? And they're just calling it Max now?
It's like, wait, we couldn't just change the graphics? Like, why did we have to change like the entire thing? Like, I guess that would like maybe they did something in the back, like on the back end, that the name change was just the excuse to have you download a different app, like because otherwise it's just fucking stupid.
The developers were like, it's going to take a lot of work to do this. Can we let's copy and paste, change the shit, and then everyone just has to jump over to this platform?
No, it would have been easier for them to just change the name without changing the actual like app, right? Like, so you know how fucking painful it is for them. Well, okay, I'm not gonna act like I'm like fucking. I was gonna say IT. I don't even know if that's IT or technology development or whatever the fucking thing is.
Like what the platform is gonna be,
or like the people who create the apps but have to distribute it to like various, because I can download it on my TV, right? But I'm sure they have to do something different than that than me downloading it from like my phone.
So it has to be like developed and it has to be hosted on a server that's like essentially like what you're saying is it has to be functional across like multiple devices.
Exactly.
Right. And so how it functions on your phone is different than your TV.
Exactly. And so it's like, so to be the person, to be the group that has to like fucking be in charge of that, I'm sure just changing the fucking graphics on the shit is way fucking easy, which they do on a regular basis with all these platforms. Like Netflix changes how their logo looks, how their layout is. Like they do that all the fucking time. So I'm sure that's much easier than actually having to just literally change the actual app altogether. And so that leads me to believe that they did it for an alternate reason outside of just like, oh, we're changing the name. Like there had to be something on the back end.
More than likely, it's probably there was well, you would think that like they could just like restrict certain content, remove certain content, change the graphic, keep those users on that same platform, right? Yeah. And for anyone who who kind of got lost in what the fuck we're talking about the transition from, and this happened recently. Is that the second time you're about to drop your phone?
I need to just put it somewhere else.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep it in like my.
Yo, you know who'd never drop their phone? Well, it's not made of metal. It's aluminum. It's a type of metal, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I guess Professor X would never drop his iPhone. He just catch it, right? Like, that must. He wouldn't even need a case.
Yeah, unless he's drunk.
He can go caseless. Yeah, unless he's drunk.
Unless he's drunk. And then he tries to pull it, and he pulls like a car instead. It's like fuck.
Pulls everybody's phone in the room, and you were just about to get Shorty's number, and you're like, Professor, like Magneto's.
You hate
fuck you, Eric.
You hate
oh my God, no! If Magneto were drunk at a bar.
Oh my God!
If you had like nipple piercings, a tongue ring, a nose ring, and he fucks around and he's
this is why he's enemy number one. You know, it's
yeah.
like, some politician was trying kicking some strong game to Shorty, and then all of a sudden, fucking Professor X
strong game.
This game was strong that day. You know what I mean? He was saying all the right things. All of a sudden, fucking Magneto comes out of nowhere. His nipple piercings get pulled out. He's like,
oh my gosh, yeah. Especially if you're like a dude and you had like, I've got a weird piece piercing on my scrotum. He just pulls it out like, bro. Yeah. What would you do what is the first today? If you got Magneto's powers, what's the first thing you would do?
Find a way to monetize it.
Isn't that terrible?
No. Capitalism, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, find a way to fucking monetize it. Well, okay. Find a way to, I don't know, man. I think the life of his, I don't want the life of a superhero, man, because you have to make so many moral choices because the shit that you're not doing is just as curious as the shit that you actually do.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm not out actually saving the world and like really like, or like forcing people to do the quote unquote the right thing. Yeah. But then the question is, what the fuck even constitutes as the right thing, you know?
Well, I'm talking about just today, right? Like,
what would I do today?
Given
I just got it.
Given a year, I would do a lot of things. But today, I'd probably only do a few things.
Today?
Yeah, first thing I do, I'm going to tell you, I've changed my brake and rotors. I just lift the car up, take all the wheels off, slap.
You're still driving.
Rotors on.
At this point, you're still driving.
I'm on 95.
Why are you driving? Bruh, just get a piece of metal and just float on that bitch.
Damn,
like
right.
he does.
I'm
like, what am I doing? Because literally, that's what I would
change my brake and rotors, but then
why donate the car?
Because I might lose the powers tomorrow. Now, let's say I lost the powers tomorrow, right? I got them as a gift, and then I lost them tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then now I still need my brakes and my rotors changed. I'm like, fuck, I should have did it yesterday while I had the powers. So I would be like, hey, let me just get this over with. Let me do it right now. It would take me like 2 minutes.
Especially if you're saying, what do you do with it literally like immediately? I would fly. That would be the first thing because I've always, in all of my dreams, or not all of my dreams, but in a majority of my dreams, like there's some element of like either flight or like weightlessness. And I know that there's probably some like fucking psycho, I don't know, so like psychoanalytical reason.
Well, you're not actually flying. You're actually just floating.
Amalgamation of your childhood trauma.
There's a difference between flying and like you're being carried on a magnetic device. Like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would probably do that because I've always been interested in just like being able to like be in the air without being in like a craft of some sort. Like I like the idea of like flying. So I would definitely do that. That would be like maybe possibly like the first thing I do.
Where would you go?
I'd want to see how far up I could get before I'm like,
before you lose consciousness.
Yeah. I would want to experiment that a little bit. I'd probably like maybe go see my family. Like, what's up, y'all? I got powers now.
I'm
like
not seeing any family members. Like I can do that shit later, bro. I'm not fucking doing that today.
Wait, okay, where would you go though?
I don't know, bro. I'd probably fly to like fucking Cartagena or something like a beautiful beach island that I never thought I could ever go to.
You know why I wouldn't do this? Is because my ability to navigate would be so fucked because I can't like I like, so for instance, right?
What's the southwest? No, southwest.
Here's the thing. You would show up bigger than like a bird, right? And so radars and shit like that for that, how they like detect like aircraft or whatever.
Stay low. Stay.
What does low mean? What does low mean? I don't know.
Lower than 3,000 feet. I don't know.
What is 3,000 feet?
I'll solve that problem because who's gonna come and get me? Like they're gonna send a fighter jet? I'd be like,
you saw how? Did you heard about the thing in DC, right? Where it was I think it was like a plane or something like that. That was just like
they shot it down.
The dude was well, they didn't shoot it down. It just dropped out of the sky. But like the dude was I think there's something happened on board where everybody like passed the fuck out. And so the plane was just kind of like flying itself until it ran out of gas or not gas. It makes it sound very like you could just go pump
Fuel.
it up at fucking Exxon.
Yeah.
But it ran out of fuel.
Same shit.
Yeah,
we put
I
fuel
guess.
in our cars. You put fuel in a plane.
But it sounds stupid to be like gas. Like I can go pump, 87 on this fucking.
I think it's probably 93. It probably takes. If I'm flying in a plane, I'm not putting 87 on.
I don't think
unleaded.
I don't think you're going that far.
Yeah, I want the premium top of the line.
No. Not that you want the premium. You have to have the premium shit because it's like your shit just won't work.
Even if, like, let's say if you're on a single engine plane, right?
Yo,
and they're like, even if they say, hey, you can just put
sidetrack.
87 in it.
Yeah.
No, I'm putting like 93.
Yeah.
I don't want unleaded. I want it to be leaded. I don't make sure that shit flies.
Okay. All right. So we're past this feeling stage, right? What I'm saying is, so there were fighter jets that they dispatched to catch up with this plane, and it was fucking seconds. In fact, people were saying this was in DC. People were like, "What the fuck was that?" Because they had the sonic boom.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, yeah, I don't think I want those kind, especially that early. I don't think I want those kind of prompts. I want to sit with it with just me first before
But also the likelihood of them detecting like a single person, right? Now,
that's what I'm saying. Okay,
you're made of fucking organism. You're thinking biological organism, not like a plane who.
They can detect like big ass
signal.
birds. So that's what I'm saying. Like they can detect a lot of things, in the air. But the main thing that I'm saying is that I don't know the answer to any of these questions. So it's like I want to keep shit like local until I figure out
like Ocean City. You can fly.
No, that's why I think I said I would go to my family's house where it's like
where's that? Hold on, Colombia?
Hold on,
Philly?
Hold on, somewhere where I know where I'm going and I know how to get back. But if I'm going to fucking like Costa Rica or some shit, I don't know what the fuck my navigation. I don't know if my phone still works at that point. Southwest. What if I drop my phone? What if you go to fucking Costa Rica, Southwest? What if you go to Costa Rica, drop your phone in the fucking ocean or whatever?
I control metal. I just get that shit back.
Damn, that is true.
I'm not dropping my phone if I control metal.
That's how this all started.
It's right here.
That is mad true. Okay. All right. Touche. Fair enough. How the fuck did we even get there in the first place? I don't even fucking know.
I don't know. I think I just took us off track with a question somewhere.
You did call us Malcolm and Martin.
Yeah, so Professor X and Magneto essentially were based off of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
You keep saying that. I don't know.
No, it's true. That's loosely what the characters are based off of.
But they made him white.
These two, very interesting. These two men who, because Malcolm and Martin, they were not enemies like the history likes to make them out to be. They were two men who identified with each other. They spoke many times.
Well, isn't it said that, and I could be wrong about this, but isn't it said that Malcolm X is like towards the end of his life, he actually started to come over a bit to more of where Martin
stood? After his pilgrimage to Mecca, he took a very different tone, right? Which is less, because before his pilgrimage to Mecca, it was defend yourself, defend black communities by any means necessary, right? After it was, oh, you know what? Like what they want us to do, they love when we're fighting.
Yeah.
That's what works for them. When black people are fighting among each other and when we're leading with like hate and anger, that's what they like. Yeah. The second we all start to say, hey, you know what? Let's stop fighting. Let's start working together. That's when they're like, whoa, we got to get this guy out of here.
Yeah. And I think that's like ultimately speaking, like I think that's where a lot of my viewpoints sort of come from is not from like this standpoint of like I just want to do the right thing or I want to. It's like, well, what's going to actually like work? You know, like what actually makes sense for society as a whole? What works for all of us, not just some of us, right? And I think I try to take that standpoint in all things. It doesn't work always, right? And it's a super imperfect way to kind of like approach things, but I feel like it's a better way because we all have to live here together no matter what. If we could all create our own fucking realities and live separate from each other, then do whatever the fuck it is you want to do. I don't give a shit. Create your own reality, make whatever it is you want, but we can't. We have to fucking live here together. We have to have rules that dictate all of our lives, and some rules will affect some people more than others, and ask yourself like, well, why? You know, like what's the differences between these two? You know, if some people have historically been a certain way, there's like, okay, well, why historically? Like try to like, I don't know, just try to. I think I want the world to be a better place, not just for a few people, but for as many people as possible. But I understand that comes with certain caveats that you're not going to please everybody. But at the same time, you should fucking try. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're not going to get it all right, but you can get some of that shit right.
Do you think that that goal might be too grand, right? I was talking to my friend about this the other day. We were talking about Pinky and the Brain, right? Great cartoon, great classic cartoon. If you,
I love the philosophical conversation about Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah, we're about to get into it. If you didn't live during a time when you got to watch Pinky and the Brain,
it came back. So people
it
always
did,
have
it
something.
did, yeah. You can go find it. So the Brain, right? Pinky. There were two lab mice who I forget how it happened, but they got like a higher intelligence, right? They
experimented.
They became self-aware, probably through experimentation.
Sure.
And ultimately, how would every episode start? The Brain would say to Pinky, "Do you know what we're going to do today, Pinky?" Pinky would say, "Like what, Brain?" And then Brain would say, "We're going to try and take over the world." And ultimately, like what ultimately held the Brain back, because he was very intelligent, but what ultimately held him back from ever accomplishing any of his goals is that his goals were too big.
You think that's what held the Brain back?
Yes, because what would he try and do? Try and take over the world. His goals weren't, hey, we're going to escape this lab and we're going to like find freedom and then we're going to try and do smaller things from there. It wouldn't be like, hey, we're going to free ourselves and free the other animals and then we're going to get out of this particular place and then, that it wasn't plan A, B, C, and then you have gradually build. His goal at the very beginning of every episode was take over the world. It's very easy to fail when your goal is so big, right?
Well, then by what it sounds like you're saying, his problem wasn't his goal. It was his roadmap to how you achieve that goal. Meaning that he could have kept the same goal, but it's all the pieces along the way that were essentially what caused his doom, right? That he tried to do too much too soon.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a number of ways we can like break it down, right?
Yeah.
But like ultimately, the goal itself, it wasn't like, hey, there's a bunch of small goals that's going to lead me to like an end result.
You know why I know this?
Yeah.
You know why I know this? Because there are people who control the world now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about Pinky and the Brain. Yeah, like, so I'm talking, and like his thing was he had one goal.
Yeah.
And that was like the end goal. That was the big thing. Take over the world. Sure. What he didn't do as a character was focus on the smaller steps along the way.
Wait. When you say smaller steps, do you mean his goals should have changed, thus changing his steps? Or do you mean that his goal can remain the same, but he needed to take smaller steps in order to try to potentially achieve that goal?
The goal can remain the same. Like keep the goal.
So that's what I'm saying. So the problem wasn't the goal itself. So for instance, if you're using this as an analogy for what we're talking about, you're saying that having that lofty goal of making the world like a better place, it's a giant goal, but what you should do are do all these like incremental things to potentially get yourself to. Yeah.
Before you can make the world a better place, make yourself a better person, make the people around you better people, make your community better in some way, and then you can grow the thing to where you're at a stage where you can actually pursue, achieve, and successfully achieve that big goal, right? Whereas, again, going back to Pinky and the Brain, they were just like, no, we're gonna go from 0 to 100, and we're gonna do it in a second. Where it's like, oh, that's not achievable. Before you get to 100, you got to go to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You got to build speed and momentum.
So the problem is, I think there are a couple problems with that idea. I think for one, we're immensely complex as human beings, and so what does it even mean to be like a good person? And it might sound like I'm just like nitpicking, like I'm just like, it's a never ending thing of like, well, what about this? What about that? But I think the reason why I ask questions like that when it comes to these type of like bigger topics is because we take certain things for granted, but those things we take for granted tend to be the things that actually like end up standing in our way, right? So you say like, okay, like the idea is to become like a better person in order to make the world a better place. What does it even mean to be a better person? Because my idea of being a better person might be different from your idea of a different person. And I would argue that it's the chasm between us that actually is what we're actually like arguing about. Like, you know what I mean? It's if I say, okay, I'm a good person now, but you see me do some fucked up shit, at least some shit that you view as fucked up, well then that's where our conflict comes from. It's because we just view it differently, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the goal of like it's such an unachievable goal because there's so many things that need to change. And this is why actually I love The Wire, right? So to bring it back to some TV and film shit. That's why I love watching The Wire, because every season of The Wire had to deal with like a different pillar of like society, right? Like, so you have the judicial system. You had the I'm trying to think of like
like one season was about like street shit, street politics, whatever. The next season was about like politics within the police department, the justice department,
and then one was like media, and then like yada yada. And I love that because what it told at the conclusion of it, and weird enough, I still haven't finished The Wire yet. We're somewhere in season 5, I think midway through season 5. But one of the things that it sort of told me was you can't really change one pillar of society without all of them having to change, because they're all built on each other and they're all interconnected. So it makes change immensely tough, because as you try to change one of the pillars, all the other pillars are trying to force it to be the same way that it already is, because they're dependent on it remaining that way, right? And so when you try to change one, it tends to fail because you're only trying to change that one. All of them kind of have to come down in the same, like, or be changed kind of simultaneously in order for any true change to actually like take root. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it makes it really fucking tough to change one aspect of society without changing a lot of other fucking things at the same time, because everything's really fucking connected.
Yeah, which is why you need a Malcolm X and a Martin Luther King, right? They essentially had the same goal. They just went about it in different ways, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, you know, going back to your question, and I thought it was a good one. It was more so a comment than a question, but it's like, what is making yourself a better person? That's for you to decide, right? Like,
but not
now. Society's going to judge you.
Well,
right?
Okay, so that's what I'm
but
saying.
Steadfast, you know what I mean? Stand your ground.
No. What I'm saying is how society judges you is the goal, meaning that we have to come to
Is it?
No, hold on. Follow me. We have to come to some consensus as a society in order for the idea of you becoming a better person, in order for you to then extrapolate that to like other people. So because for what I think you're saying is you become a better person in order for you to use that as a launching point for making like your neighborhood better. And then you make your neighborhood better, and then you make your city better, and then you make your city better, then you make your state better, then you make your state better, then you make the U.S. better. Then if you make the U.S. better, then you make the entire you know what I mean? Like it's like
that's
these
like
stages.
That's like the path of ease. Now, granted, the reality, the actual path that you're going to take is going to look a lot different. Like you might say, hey, I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to make my home better. The people in my home, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my children, my wife, my whatever, right? And then you may jump straight to, I'm going to make my state better by, maybe I like created like a mobile app for like the healthcare system or whatever, and that like improves the way people access or find access to healthcare, and you like jump steps or whatever. Like there are 1,000 different ways you can go about it, but I do think where we should start, right? Instead of trying to make the world a better place, what if, hey, I'm going to make I'm going to impact the people to my right and my left, right? What if everybody was like the person in front of me, behind me, to the left of me, to the right of me? I'm going to try and reach those people and help them and help my community. I'm just going to start here.
We're getting into a very interesting conversation right now.
Yeah.
All right. The reason why I still think that's a pretty flawed way of looking at it is because what does it mean to you? Again, what does it mean to you to be a better person? So if we go somewhere in the deep south, we don't even have to go somewhere in the deep south. If we go to Colombia, we'll find some racist people probably at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
And their idea of a better self, better world, or whatever the case is pretty fucking vastly different than mine, right? And so if they're looking to their left and the right, they can have influence. In fact, I would argue they probably definitely do have influence on the people who are immediately around them. But I would consider that a pretty fucked up way to have influence over them, or they're influencing them with the quote unquote wrong thing. But that's why there needs to be some sort of level setting for society of like, this is our standard, even if it's a vague sort of understanding of it, but at least it needs to be defined somehow. And I think that we're kind of a little bit not there. Obviously, you know, Trump dredged up a lot of shit that was like already there, obviously, but he made it more like mainstream. But I would argue it's probably less even though it feels more intense now because of social media and just like the temperature in the room of just like seeing a constant stream of like,
Trump didn't
all the shit.
He didn't create anything new. He just kind of like
he just gave it a megaphone.
It was already there. It was very much there.
Yeah, in fact, I actually would tip my hat to him in that sense of just like, well, thank God, thank God somebody was
during
able to.
his presidency, there was a lot of people who showed who they truly are because
100%.
He made it somewhat like,
people got fucking
okay.
like divorced and shit because of this shit. You know what I mean? Like it got fucking pretty fucking intense.
Could you imagine like 5 years ago we were in absolute love and like we thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives together, but now I see that you're kind of a fucking bigot or something like that. This is
why I'm always a proponent of like watching trash TV like Love Island, because they force you, if you have any curiosity about the world or you have any opinions about the world, it forces you to have conversations that you might not have otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Like most of the situations that they run into on like fucking like Love Island or Love is Blind or any of these things, never fucking find myself in any of these situations. Yet the conversations they'll foster are interesting conversations to have somebody, especially if you're like in a longer term relationship. Like, well, what do you think about this thing? We might have gone 20 years without ever asking each other these questions, but these shows will like bring it up of just like, well, what about this? What about that? Or if you read a lot, if you read a certain book or whatever the case is, it might force you to but it's like tougher when you're reading unless you're like reading the book at the same time. Or like what me and my partner do is we although we haven't done it in a minute, but we had a point where we would read together. Like she would read a passage, I'd read a passage of a book, we'd like go through the book or whatever. And so, but also that can be a long. I
wouldn't do a passage. I'd be like a chapter.
No, well, I'm sorry. That's what I meant. It's like
we'd
read like chunks of pages at a time. This is what we would read. And then once one of us gets like tired or like maybe we're like, hey, like maybe like 5-6 pages, we'll both read like, and then we'll pass it to the other. But I guess what I'm saying is like ultimately speaking,
Damn, that made me ask as you were talking, it made me ask a question to myself in my head, and I want you to finish your story, then maybe
no, go ahead and ask.
So it was like, what is more stimulating to the brain? Like if you were to do a brain study and someone were like reading a book versus listening to an audio book, like is one more? Are synapses in the brain firing doing one over the other? You would think
probably just different things altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the surface, you'd think reading a book is probably more like mentally stimulating, or it fires more synapses in the brain. But also having the freedom to not like have to actually like look at the words and to just like close your eyes and hear the story and imagine it. Like, is that?
Or to hear it in a dramatic sense. Like you can't like you can only read it in a dramatic sense if you have the creativity in your brain to like read it in a dramatic sense. Like I remember reading Dune, because I didn't read Dune as a kid, but I read it before the movie came out. And I remember reading it, or I both read it. I got it as a book, but then I knew I was going to be like busier, so I eventually got the audiobook, and hearing it was actually a lot better for me because I was able to visualize it a lot better from hearing it versus as I'm reading it. I'm just spending a lot of time trying to understand what the fuck's going on versus like having somebody read it and then I'm still not struggling, but like trying to like understand what's going on. But I'm more of listening to like the inflection in the voice, like like the drama, language, and they also had like a little bit of music that went along with it, and it just made it. Okay, I'm seeing this, like it's easier for me to like, even if I don't understand a particular thing, it's easier for me to like create that world in my mind than me reading it. And also I'm a terrible reader. So like I have to read the same thing like 12 times before I like really truly like understand it.
And some people don't hear their own voice in their head. Have you ever heard that? Like,
how do you know?
So like, for example, I can think to myself and I can hear my thoughts in my head, right? I can talk like when I'm talking to myself, but in my head. I do it all the time. Sometimes I talk to myself out loud.
How do you know it's your voice though? Like what is it? Like what is it about the thing that makes
what I've constructed in my head of like my own inner voice, right? Not like my voice and how it actually sounds right now, but like your inner voice. You could hear it in your head. You can talk
I think
to
everybody
yourself.
has an inner voice, sure.
So some people say that like they are unable to, like when they're in their head thinking, they don't hear like their inner voice. They may see their thought. They may be like a visual thinker.
No.
No, this is true. You cannot say no to this.
I will say no. Who?
So are you saying no to real studies that show that some people?
What study? What? Where?
So studies of the brain and like how people. I forget what exactly it is. If you really want, I can look it up and I can send it to you.
I truly do. Yeah.
So I think everyone's brain works differently, right? Some people, when you're thinking in your head, like you hear your own voice or what you think is your own voice, the construct of it, right?
Yeah, I think you're specifically saying like your actual like voice, like
no. Listen to me. What did I just say? I said in your inner voice, right?
Yeah.
What you've constructed.
You said some people hear their own voice, like hear their inner voice as like their actual voice.
Yeah, like in Jerry Seinfeld's head, is he like? When he's having a thought, is he in Jerry mode where he's talking? I can't do a good Jerry Seinfeld right now. But like, does Jerry Seinfeld hear the Jerry Seinfeld voice in his head that we hear? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Sure. So, and like that's what I'm saying. Some people might hear what they think is their actual voice, and some people just hear an other inner voice. Like you might hear like fucking Morgan Freeman. I don't know if whoever, right? Some people don't hear a voice at all.
How would you?
They just think.
Outside of people self-reporting that, how would anybody else know? Like, what studies could they do other than literally asking people, "Hey, do you?" And that's slightly different than what I thought you were saying before, which is they don't hear an inner voice; they just see like words or some shit. Because I remember you said that.
Yeah, some people report that like when they think in their head, it's more like visual, like they see things. They see like they might see themselves in like a place or a time doing a thing, right? And there might be like a voice or thoughts attached to it, but it's not necessarily a voice.
I think the reason why I'm like adamant that that's incorrect is because that's to say that you don't think. Because
no, it is that they think differently than you do, right? So I feel like you are probably like, when you're thinking in your head, like you hear a voice and you're talking through your thoughts, whatever. Some people may see more like shapes and sounds and colors, or like there may be more visual, and it's less. I'm hearing a voice and I'm talking to myself.
Are these like people who function normally in society?
Yeah.
No,
it could be people.
No, because
what you're saying is no to a very
the reason
a
I'm
very
saying
public common thing.
It's not common.
It is common.
Let me pose this to you. If
I got to send you this study,
please do. If somebody's crossing the street, right? There's a thought process that happens, right? And I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10, you're not actually having like an actual like you're not saying it out loud. Like, I got to look left, I got to look right, and then I got to cross. Is it a red light? Is it a green light? What is it? You're not actually saying that out loud, right? You're just doing the thing. You're going through, but your brain has to actually process information. You're looking to the left saying there's no cars there, right? And sometimes you don't even know that you're like, it's so automatic that you don't even know what's happening. What I'm saying to you is that some people, you're saying that some people don't actually have this like thought process so much as they just interpret shapes and colors and this and that, and that's how they have their thought. But what I'm saying is the fact that they're even having a thought is it might be deeper in terms of like your inner monologue, like, hey, I really shouldn't do this, or I should do this, or whatever, or you like have those type of struggles, right? But what I'm saying is everybody from a base level whose brain actually, works, and maybe the term isn't right, but like quote unquote normally, which I know that's a relative term, but still, you're going to have inner processing that isn't like as deep as like I'm having an inner monologue. I can accept that maybe somebody's hearing like a different voice. I would think that's maybe.
But then how do you explain children, right? Before a child learns how to speak, right? We know that children do still have dreams and thoughts, right? So, but if let's say a 1-year-old who does
a dream is a different thing than a thought.
Well, so we know that like young children, right? Because like when they're doing things, they're mostly downloading, but like not all of it is just like I'm just like a mindless robot. Like there are sometimes, like a child may see like that thing, right? And that thing might be a red ball. They don't have the language to in their head think red ball. That's fun. I want to play with that. But there's still some type of thought going on there.
But what happens when they figure out that it's a red ball, though? Like that's what we interpret as a red ball.
Then they learn the thing. They learn like the language based off of the country or the region they're in, and like what that thing is called.
If you see something and you don't recognize what the thing is, I'm not saying that your brain goes unidentified object, processing, right? I'm not saying that.
It's more emotional curiosity, mental, like that thing.
Sure,
is.
My brain will go, what is this thing, right? I'm having that inner processing of
what if you don't know language, right? Like what if you don't know like the words to be able to think what is this thing? Then what do you call it then?
That's a really good question.
Then it's just visual. Then like you're just seeing something in your mind, and your the synapses in your brain are still firing. It's we'd call it curiosity because we understand the language to call it curiosity. But what if you're a 1-year-old child and you don't know the word curiosity, but you are curious? Then you're having a very different thought.
No, but that's just what I'm trying to say is that you're still having a thought though. You might not have literal words to go along with it, but you're still having a thought. The thing that you're saying that I think is different from what I'm interpreting that you're saying is that you're saying that you can get to a point where, or there's some people out there who don't have like inner monologues or inner dialogues, and then to take it a step further, they just interpret things as shapes and scenarios and things like that, right?
Or some people like they may think through their thought in a visual sense, not necessarily like actually, like for example, if I'm in my head and I'm like thinking about all the things I have to do today. Some people, I'm probably like, all right, 9 a.m. we gotta do this around that time. We gotta leave to get here by this time. We gotta go there. Like I'm actually, or like sometimes I'll just be in a car, not listening to music, and I'm just like telling myself jokes in my head, or I'm like thinking through like something that happened in the past, or something that like I think is going to happen in the future based off of, past experiences. Like you think of like wild and crazy stupid shit when you're by yourself in the car, right?
Yeah.
I hear my voice. Like I 100% can like hear this inner voice that I have. Mm-hmm. Some people would say that, hey, I don't hear an inner voice, but I do see and think through my thoughts more like visually than actually like that inner dialogue.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like what I'm trying to say is I feel like that's a touchy thing, because what counts as inner dialogue, meaning that if you see something that says 9:30 a.m. that, hey, I'm supposed to be at a place at 9:30 a.m., your brain is processing, I have to be at a place at 9:30 a.m. You're processing that, right? Whether you have an inner monologue about it, what is that? What are the implications of me having to be at this place at 9:30 a.m.? You're still processing that's 9:30. Like your brain is 9:30 a.m.
Sure,
it's if you know what that means. Like it'd be different if you're a kid and you've never seen 9:30 a.m. That's just a shape to you, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, that's a circle. If you even know what a circle is at that point, like you're just like, that's a thing, right? I don't know what that thing is, but your brain's taking it in as it's a thing. You're right. I don't know exactly what that processing is like, but when you learn that 9:30 a.m., it's hard for me to think that you can divorce that from the meaning of it. You know what I mean?
Sure. It's not even about like divorcing the thing from the meaning, right? It's about how your brain actually functions like through and processes thought, right? So we know that some people are more like, you put 10 people in a room and you're like, draw yesterday. Some people are not going to be able to do it because they're like, I can't draw. Like that's not the way my brain works. Some people will be able to like actually draw out like a cartoon of like what happened yesterday. Some people will be able to paint something. It would be shapes, colors, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You say 100 people are running a marathon tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. You'd probably be shocked to find out how those 100 people, like the thought process that got them to that place at 9:30 a.m. And for some of them, it's not as simple as, okay, like in my brain, I'm thinking like, hey, I have a marathon at 9 a.m. I'm running a half a marathon that's like 13 point whatever miles, and like this is how it's gonna go. Some people like may have thought about that thing very differently than the person next to them, but they all showed up there at 9:30 a.m.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we don't think about things differently. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, from what it sounds like you're saying that there's some people, unless like what is the goal of this? Not of the necessarily of this conversation, because there's none of us know what the goal of this conversation is. We're just
going down an interesting little rabbit hole.
Yeah. I like this. I like this podcast today. What is the goal of saying like, okay, some people like interpret that differently, like, because like that I know people like they see 9:30 a.m. I don't know why we're picking 9:30 a.m. but let's go with
let's not change the
let's
time.
Let's say 9 a.m. No. 9:30 feels complicated.
9 is a little bit too rushed. Now I'm rushing.
Let's give ourselves 30 minutes.
Give ourselves some grace.
30-minute window.
Sunday. It's a marathon on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm not doing. I will be there at 9:30.
Yeah.
I won't be there at 9.
No. That's a bridge too far. Okay, so like, I understand that people will interpret this differently, meaning that there are some people who there are certain connotations again, and it feels like maybe I'm repeating myself, but I understand the fact that we all process things differently. That I'm not disputing. That is true and will forever be true. In fact, it's probably why, it's definitely why we find ourselves in conflict with each other so much, is because we just process things differently. That I'm not in dispute of. What I'm saying is in dispute is the idea of what constitutes as an inner voice and what doesn't. What I'm saying is that even if it's not an inner voice, as in like I'm thinking about 9:30 a.m. and I'm saying, okay, well, what are all the things that implies if I have to show up to a place at 9:30 a.m. and you're having a full blown like conversation in your head about this, right? I'm saying that whether or not you have that conversation is immaterial to the fact that you have an inner voice, meaning that like the fact that you look at 9:30 a.m. and you know that that's 9:30 a.m., you have an inner voice.
What do you think? Do you think there's a difference between having an inner voice and having thoughts?
That's yes, I do, and that's what I'm trying to describe to you. Is that or no? I'm sorry.
I think there is a difference.
Okay,
I think an inner voice and thinking, like having thought, is different.
Yeah. Well, okay. So then the idea, what I'm trying to describe, or I think what I'm trying to describe, and maybe I'm just doing a pretty shitty job about it, is the idea of consciousness, meaning that as long as you have consciousness, there's something happening in your brain. You're having some thoughts about something. You might not be able to interpret like what that means. You're saying, like, even if you don't say in your brain, oh, that thing over there, that looks weird, there's still something that happens in you that allows you to process it as, oh, this thing is weird, right? Even if you don't have that inner dialogue to say this thing is weird.
Yeah.
You know,
but I feel like you can get there a number of ways, right? You can have the thought, this thing is weird, based off of like logic. Like logically, that's weird. Like it doesn't make sense for that to be there. It's weird. It could be like, rationally, like, rationale tells me that this thing doesn't belong there and that's why it's weird. Or it could just be like an emotional thing. Like I feel like that shouldn't be there and that's why it's weird. It could be like, or it could be pleasure. Like, ooh, like that thing's right there and I enjoy it. And it's kind of like weird in a way, right? It's weird that it's there and I enjoy it. Some people say it's weird that it's there and I don't enjoy it, right? And then some people will think through it. They'll hear their inner voice and they'll talk to themselves and they'll be like in their mind, like, that thing is weird. It doesn't belong there. Why is it there? I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. Some people, and they'll hear that voice. They'll have that conversation with themselves. Some people would just think the thought, right? Like, that's weird. And there's no actual voice in their head. There's no conversation. There might be.
So how do they get to the point of this is weird?
So it could be a loud voice. Some people have like a dominant voice in their head where they talk to themselves and they think through their thoughts, right? Some people have like a quieter, smaller voice where it's like, and maybe that's just the thought. Maybe it's just a smaller, quieter voice. Really,
and this is maybe sidetracking this conversation is how do you, like, as a person to person, how do you fucking know? You don't. Meaning that somebody might say, I have a very loud voice. The fuck does that mean? Like, I would have to know.
Yeah.
I would have to know what your inner voice actually sounds like in order for you to actually, for me to actually know what the fuck that means for you, because it could just be the same volume as mine, but you perceive it as like a loud thing where I'm like, no, like, so the idea of consciousness.
That's a very interesting question. Is like, what does your inner voice, for those of us who feel as though or believe we have an inner voice, or even for people who don't, what is your loud versus my loud? Is yours like dominant, or is yours like a little bit more quiet, submissive? Is yours just like rational, logical? Like, what does your inner voice sound like?
Yeah, I don't know. This is I think all around, I think it's tough for us to make the reason why I'm like adamant against this, or against the idea that there are people who don't have inner voices, is because I think, for one, we're describing like it's a gradient, meaning that like there might be people who have inner voices, but it's like you could almost borderline on just calling it like a thought, right? Or like if over here is a thought, meaning that, hey, this thing is weird, and over here is a voice, meaning that we're having a full-blown conversation and your brain's having a conversation about like, and that's even trippy, right? Because then you think of like, well, who are you having the conversation with? Like, why are there two different things kind of going on in your brain? Why is there something
to be able to have a conversation with yourself in your head?
Because you have to both be able to say the thing and also receive the thing, meaning that like,
Is it both you, or is there a different consciousness in your brain that you're talking to, right?
Like nobody fucking knows.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah.
You know, nobody fucking knows. And it's such a weird fucking thing, you know?
You know where I think I'm getting this from?
Yeah.
So I watched Avatar Way of the Water last night and today with my daughter. It was
long, I'm sure.
It was a little bit long. It was good, but it was also like, do we need 3 more of these? I don't think so.
Yeah. Yo, the next one.
I get it.
By the time the next one comes out, or not even the next one, but by the time they finish the series, like I feel like literally people are going to be like, people who are just being born like now are going to be like teenagers.
It's just colonialism. That's what the movie's about. This is white people coming into places where they don't belong.
Yeah, do we need fucking like 5 movies for this?
Yeah.
I think we don't
need
wrap
the
this
Avatar
up
to tell us this. We could just watch learn the Tulsa Massacre.
Watch
this
Roots.
is what this is.
Yeah, it already exists. Yeah,
we've seen this movie. We've seen it already.
Yeah.
So in this one now it's just like, it was also like revenge, but also we're still going to like mine these things for natural resources. We're going to like essentially they're coming to this new planet because that Earth is dying. It's like, why is Earth dying? Because we've killed it. Now we're going to come here and destroy this planet, and then keep destroying other planets. For the most part, it was good. Again, I don't think we need 3 more of it. But like in the film, you know, a big and this whole film was about like a real tribe and group of people. It's an African tribe. I'm not going to try and butcher their name, but like these are like essentially real people that James Cameron has modeled the the avatars after, right? Or the
I think it was a Native American.
Navi tribe.
Yeah. I don't think it's African. I think it's Native American.
The last thing I saw was that this is like based off of a tribe in Africa, right? The Navi people.
Yeah.
And then the water people are based off of a different tribe. I'm not sure who they're based off of. But anyway, so in this movie, the Navi people, a big part of their thing is being connected to the earth, right? Being connected to I forget what they call Iwa. I think it's Iwa, is like the tree that is like the source of their spiritual guidance and like the Mother Earth, basically.
Sure.
Right? So the daughter in the movie, she somehow has like a deeper connection to Iwa, and she can like feel Iwa. Like she can hear her breathing, she can hear her heart beating, she can hear her voice, right? And I thought, I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking like, that's really interesting to be able to like feel something so deeply that like is an organic being of its own that other people also recognize. Like, you know, how, like we talk about like religious people, sometimes I heard God, I heard his voice, right? I hear God speaking to me, right?
Yeah.
So is that like a real thing, or is that choice, right? Because to hear God, you have to believe in God. To believe in God, you have to have learned.
Not necessarily. Because there are people who are like not religious who said they had like some sort of like a religious experience where they like heard God or like saw an angel or whatever the case is.
Yeah, but what if but at a certain point most of us have heard about religion at some point in time. We've heard about God or like, you know, the Buddha or like, you know, the Holy Virgin Mary or whatever, right? So if we've heard about it, been introduced to it, whether we accept it or reject it, we're familiar with it. So if we have a religious experience, it is more than likely that we're going to attribute it to whatever religion is closest to us or that we're most familiar with. So if I have a spiritual experience, because, you know, I live in America and the predominant religion here is Christianity, I would probably attribute or relate it to God, right?
Maybe if it continues.
Maybe I wouldn't.
I would say you would. I would say you would find a way to rationalize it that makes sense for you.
Sure, and our brains, we rationalize things based off of like exposure and proximity, the things we've been exposed to within proximity to like where we've lived our lives, right? I wouldn't. More than likely, if I had an
well, then how do you account for people who like say like they genuinely changed like their religion?
If someone, it's more than likely through like education, right? Whereas like, hey, I was born this way. I was born into a Christian or Catholic family. Over time and exposure and learning about like some other religions, I identify more with that.
Well,
so
I guess that's what I'm saying is that, but it starts with the feeling though, meaning that you don't really feel like the religion that you've been introduced. Like you feel like, hey, I mean, it's just what I learned. It's what I grew up with. But then once you figure out like, oh shit, there's other shit out there. There's a feeling that happens that I connect more with this thing. Like the feeling precedes the knowledge of it. The feeling's always been there, but because you didn't have anything to like bounce it off of. You didn't have anything to like define it with. You weren't sure what to fucking do with it. But then when you learned, you're like, oh shit, but the feeling came first.
Yeah. What if you're like not religious or you don't have any ties to any particular religion, right? You have a religious or a spiritual experience, you're more than likely, my point is you're more than likely going to attribute it to a religion that you've at least heard about, have some knowledge of, right? Okay. I'm not going to, I know nothing of sorry, what is the predominant religion in the Middle East? What is it?
Islam?
Islam.
Yeah.
Islam. I should have known that. I know nothing about Islam. If tonight I go to sleep and I have a spiritual experience, more than likely I'm not going to attribute it to Islam because I know nothing of Islam. But I probably would be like, oh shit, God spoke to me.
For argument's sake, let's say
angel touched
me. I assume you have like a point with what you're trying to say.
I completely lost my point. I was getting somewhere with it, and it was tied to Avatar: Way of the Water.
It was like the fact that you could like,
and it was somehow tied to your breath. The voice.
I think let me give you this what I was hearing you say. You were saying that there was this person who she was like connected to her voice. She could hear it, she could feel it, all those type of things, and that having a thing that was like another organic thing that is like separate from us that we could kind of like interact with.
Oh, that's how this whole conversation about at least I'm relating it back to it because there is a relation there. It might not be, but like I feel like that's kind of like what may have inspired this conversation about hearing a voice in your head and so on and so on.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think the idea of consciousness period is really fucking interesting. And if we were like, as a species, if we were better at just anything, I feel like we would have at least scratched the surface of why we are the way that we are. Like, why can we have like these inner thoughts that we don't say out loud, but we can still hear them kind of, and we perceive them. Yeah. And also they don't seem to be like ours, meaning that we're perceiving them. Like, I don't choose. This is exactly what we were talking about the other night.
Perception versus perspective.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Because like, or at least it has to do somewhat with it in that, like, you don't choose to, like, if you see something that's scary, you don't choose to be like, I'm scared or I'm not scared. You have the actual reaction, and you typically have like the thought, right? So, but what is that, right? Like the fact that you're not in control of we're in control of some things, but not really. Like you're not really in control of your thoughts. Like you just have the thought. Like, you know what I mean? You're in control of you could say you're in control of your actions, maybe sometimes. Well, I would point to people who have maybe like neurological issues that they're not in control of their actions, because like, look at Michael J. Fox, right? Yeah. He has, I think it's Parkinson's, right?
I will agree to that. Yes, but it's I don't believe so. Muhammad Ali has Parkinson's. I think Michael J. Fox has something else, not epilepsy. That's where he, like, his body has shapes.
He suffered from it's Parkinson's.
He has Parkinson's? Okay.
Yeah, he was diagnosed in 91.
I thought it was something else.
Yeah, I think he recently just came out that he had something else.
Oh, I was about to say, like, we've known for a while he had Parkinson's, but like something else is there too.
Yeah, but it's Parkinson's.
So that person's in control of their mind, but like their body and their speech.
My argument is how much are they actually in control of their mind? What I'm trying to say is, are we actually in control of our minds? Because the shit just kind of happens, and we're kind of like, we observe it and then we analyze it afterwards, but it also just happens, right? Without our consent.
I think we are more in control than we give ourselves credit for. I think what a lot of people do is they.
You're saying that we are not. I'm not talking about actions. I'm not talking about actions.
Yeah,
I'm talking about our thoughts.
Yeah, I think we are more in control of our thoughts.
How are you in control of any thought you have?
Because
describe to me that.
So you can train the mind, right? If I can train my mind to react and respond and to absorb and to like deflect certain things, then am I not then in control of my thoughts? For example,
no.
If I'm someone who's afraid of bugs, right? You can have the thought to say, you know what, I choose no longer to be afraid of these things, and I'm going to train my brain. I'm going to identify what about bugs bothers me, right? Like inherent thing I may not even recognize. I'm going to try and go through a process of self-discovery to identify what that thing is, and then I'm going to train myself to get over that fear. People have done it all the time. People who are afraid of water have learned to swim. People who are afraid of, bugs have learned to be able to, like, be in a space with bugs or spiders or snakes. Like people who are afraid of social situations, right? They're afraid of like being around people. They can train their minds to change their process of thought to become like, hey, you know what? I've defeated this fear that I've had because I've rewired my brain.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're controlling your thought.
Right. So it's the same idea of somebody being like an alcoholic, right? Like you can kind of train yourself to not be, to either not be, I don't know how I'm trying to describe it, like either not be an alcoholic or to just not drink, right?
To not let that, whatever that thing is, take over.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't mean you don't have the thought though, right? Like you still have the thought. Like people who are afraid of bugs probably still have the actual thought. It's just that they've come up with techniques or whatever it is when they have the thought to how to bypass it.
Sure. Yeah. Right? But I also would believe that there are some people who have the willpower to not just train themselves to like ignore it or to like respond to it differently, but to train themselves to say, hey, I'm going to like defeat this thing.
Even if I were to grant you that, why do we even have to do that in the first place? Like meaning that like we have, again, like my premise still stands in that we have thoughts that we don't actually control. We're not consciously controlling what thoughts we have.
I just think we are more in control of our thoughts than we give ourselves credit for. Some people say, "Oh, you're not in control of any of your thoughts." I don't think that's true at all.
I think it's hard. I'm trying to really distinguish between the idea of having a thought and that thought then leading to an action. I do believe we can control our actions a lot more than we might give, privy to, or I don't even know if that's the correct word, but like that we might give credit to. But I think it's genuinely, I don't want to say impossible, but like literally like to control our thoughts, meaning that I can't control my thoughts. I can come up with practices and things like that. And I say this because this is something that I've actually worked on like in therapy of just like the trouble isn't the fact that you have the thought. The trouble is what then do you do after you've had the thought? Like, do you let that thought then marinate, and do you, because I'm a classic ruminator, meaning that like I just let the same thought sort of like loop through my brain 1,000 million times before I'm like, this is kind of crazy. I should probably stop this.
I do that at night when I'm trying to sleep.
Like think about things, right? Like it just keeps constantly
dumb
looping.
Fake shit that'll never even happen. I'm just like in a story that of like, yo, this thing is fucking a tiger might just. What if I was walking down the street and a tiger just attacked me? How would I survive this situation? Like, and then I'll just be in bed like, yo, like stop thinking about it. Go to sleep.
That's actually a really interesting question of like why guys tend to like, and I've noticed this. Actually, I started noticing it with you. And then since then I can't not notice it, how we tend to go to like really fucking like violent places for no discernible reason. So for instance, I think you were talking about like you're describing like your relationship with your daughter, and happy Father's Day today. I didn't say that while we were on air.
Happy Father's Day to all the other fathers out there. Happy
fathers out there.
Mental Health Month. Did you know June was Men's Mental Health Month?
There's a men's mental health month.
That's the problem. No one gives a fuck about it. It's Pride Month.
To be fair, I don't know about any other group specific mental health month.
Well, I think there is a women's mental health.
Is there?
Month. Yeah,
I don't know it.
Then there's like we were talking about like
African American mental health month. I don't know it. Yeah,
Congress wouldn't pass that on a national level. That's like we're giving you guys February.
Yeah, that's your time to get in all your shit. Okay, if you can't get it in within February, it's just not going to happen the rest of the year.
Yeah, but shout out to all the fathers there. Happy Father's Day. Happy Men's Mental Health Month. Happy Pride Month.
Yeah. So you were describing something about you like, I'd do anything for my daughter. And I was like, all right, cool. Then you're like, I'd slit everybody's throat in here for my daughter. I'm like, what the fuck? How did we get there?
Because that's the most extreme thing, I feel like.
And I was like, and that's when I first started noticing, like, well, we just, for whatever reason, we just pick like a random, like,
violent
I just want to be violent. It's like, nobody's done anything here to like offend you or your daughter, yet that's where your mind went. And now I can't turn it off, as in like, whenever guys want to describe like the most extreme shit, they're like, I'll fuck everybody in here up. It's like, right. Why? What is it? Why do you have to do that? Why
it's probably putting your kid in more danger?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it doesn't even, for what you're trying to do, it doesn't even make logical sense.
Yeah.
Like, but yet we think that as like that this means I'm protecting somebody.
Yeah.
If I like, and I feel like that's really like telling in terms of like how we even like interact with the world, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's because men feel like they have to be like, you have to be the protector. You have to make sure like your family's good. You have to, so like the what it usually comes down to, like protection, right? Is like there's an apparent, as Harrison Ford said, there is, there's a grave and present danger. What was that movie with Harrison Ford?
Is it Air Force One?
No. It was look it up really quickly. It was something there's like a present danger. It's a Harrison Ford movie.
Is that what the actual movie's called?
Yeah, remember there in the old 90s movies where they would say the name of the movie in the movie, and people always, that great debate, like, is that cool or is that not? Clear and Present Danger. Isn't it Clear and Present Danger?
I think that's a movie. I don't know if that's what is like the quote. Clear and Present Danger quotes.
So the movie was called Clear and Present Danger.
There is a movie called
Clear
and
and
Present
Danger.
Danger.
In the movie, Harrison Ford goes like, I think he's talking to the president, like, Mr. President, there's a clear and present danger. And then there was a debate about, is that okay to say? Like, should you say the title of the movie in the movie? I don't know. I like it. Yeah. I always like when they do it. It's like they did it. They said the thing. When they're like, this is Ragnarok, and it's like, yeah, that's it. They said it.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Okay.
it has to be like a good one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, did they ever say it?
I don't think they did. Yeah.
Yeah, but if they did, I'd have been like, oh, they said it.
Maybe they did. I don't know.
Maybe they did. Yeah. What was that? So like, I think for men, like, right, this instinctual, but also like society tells you got to be the protector and the provider, right? So it's like if you come to that ultimate protect or die situation, right? Like, how far are you willing to go? So I feel like a lot of times men go to that, like, that's how far I guess I'd have to go.
But it's always from that and not, I would whisk my child away from the danger super quickly. Like, it's always like, I think a lot of these things,
it's like, what if you couldn't, right? What if there's like, fight or flight? What if flight is no longer an option and your only option is to fight?
What I'm still saying still remains starkly true of, well, why is that the thing, that the scenario that enters into your brain? Meaning that, like, again, it's not like this place is on fire, I gotta get my child out quickly. That's not the thing that enters your brain, which is we're all fucked if that happens, right? Whether you can slit somebody's throat or not, right?
Yeah, because like that's the easy path, right?
How is that the easy path?
So if the house is on
the
fire,
entire fucking place is on fire,
because like, so
smoke inhalation,
you've
like
given yourself the mental out already. Like, there's already a path of escape where like you and your child are safe.
Wait, how?
So you're saying the house is on fire, right? Why don't people think, well, I would just run out of the house? Like, of course that's what you do.
But if somebody's trying to attack your daughter, yes, the worst extreme thing you do to them is kill them. That's an easy jump. Like, how is that any harder than?
because it's like having to enact that level of violence, right?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Take something away from you too. Like, you're losing something as well.
But again, I feel like you're still missing my point. Is why is that the scenario that goes into your brain and not like something else that is probably even more dangerous? Like, if a fucking tornado comes here, again, we're all fucked. Like that's not the thing of like, oh, I would really like, I'd try to strap my child down so the tornado doesn't take him away. Like, that is nowhere near your brain, but it's like, I could fuck everybody up in here, and that's like the first thing.
You're talking about very, very different things. So
how are those things?
A tornado
very different?
Is like, so like in the event of a tornado, like, yes, you're thinking about like, I need to like, make sure my child is safe, and I'm willing to do anything to make sure my kid is safe. If I gotta like jump in that car and hot wire it and drive us the fuck out of here, like, I'll do that. If I gotta like,
even if you don't know how to hot wire a car, you're just you'll figure it out.
The red wire and the blue wire.
You turn into Jack Bauer all of a sudden for no reason.
Like, Toretto did it.
Did he? I feel like he's always had the key.
I feel
to
like
a
he
car,
always like flips.
Yeah,
down
and there's always a key there.
Just drop there. Yeah, I don't know. I would hope that would happen. We jump in this Toyota Tacoma, and someone's still leaving the keys. But I think, like, to answer your question, I think people go with like the most extreme situation where there's no exit. Getting out of here easily, like driving away, running away is not the option. My only option is to fight. And if I'm in that fight, how far would I go?
No, what I'm saying is I'm challenging the fact that that's where you like. There's a reason why guys tend to start there, meaning that because it's all imagination. We're just imagining all of this shit, right? So it's like, but there's a reason why you gravitate towards that extreme, why you don't create a different scenario in your mind. Like, you're creating that scenario for a specific reason, which is what I'm saying is like, that's kind of fucking weird that's the scenario that we like to create in our mind. Like, in our minds, we're always, and I guess it could, I don't know if you could
because
blame,
it's like the great sacrifice. It's like what?
How is that a sacrifice? Slitting everybody's throat. What sacrifice have you made?
You're sacrificing the lives of all these people in the room for the life. You're
sacrificing other people's lives. Like, why is that
because like that is a very like insane decision to have to make, right? Like take other people's lives to save the life of your own, right? Like remember the scene from Spider-Man where he's holding what was her name? Gwen was it Gwen? Where he's holding Gwen, right? And then he's also holding the cable to the cart filled with people, that he was trying to save. He's trying to decide, who do I save, right? Great scene in the movie, like ultimate, like
the trolley problem. Yeah. Do you know what this is? The trolley problem. Did you ever watch? Well, you could know it outside of the Good Place, but have you ever watched A Good Place?
I started it, but I didn't finish it.
Oh, it's fucking great, amazing show. I love it. But the trolley problem, it's like basically like, okay, if you're on a track, if a train's coming on a track, right, and you're the person who's controlling the lever, if they just keep going, if the train keeps going straight and you don't change the track at all, then it's going to run over 5 people, right? But if you change the track, then it's going to take an alternate route and it's going to kill one person. Which do you choose? And you have to choose one. Like there's no other way to stop the train other than to. There's literally no way to start the train. What do you choose?
Kill the one person.
But again, then you're choosing for that one person to die.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
easy
it.
enough for you. Yeah.
That's it. It's like I'd rather kill one person than 5. And if I had those are my only options, it's going to be 1.
Yeah, but so you don't see that there's a distinction between choosing for somebody to die and letting other people die. To you, they're like one and the same.
So I think what you might be saying here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that like if you choose to change tracks, right? What you're choosing is that one person to die.
Correct.
Right? But also,
this is true.
In the event that you choose not to, you're also saying, "Hey, I'm allowing, or I'm willing to let this thing happen, knowing that it will cause greater casualty."
So, but the thing is that there's, at least in my mind, I'm not saying whether I would do one thing or the other, but what I am saying is that like maybe the proponents of like, okay, like you would let this track, you would let it just do what it's going to do, is that you pulling the lever is different from just abstaining and not making a choice.
I think both are choices. You're
No. They're both choices. What I'm saying is there's different degrees, meaning that there's different moral implications of you literally making the physical act of this person's going to die versus I had no choice. Somebody's going to die anyways, and I just let it be what it is already.
I think that is how people, and I'm going to use this word lightly. I think it's like cowardly in a way, right? It is, I don't want to make a tough decision, so I'm just going to let the thing that was already happening happen, so I can say that it's not my responsibility. It was going to happen anyway. Whereas you could have chosen to make a tough decision that would have caused fewer casualties, right? Mm-hmm. You could have chosen, hey,
what if I told you all 5 people were pedophiles?
Yeah, then I'm going to run them over.
But like
knowing if I knew that,
that challenges the idea that you're just go. So basically, you're making the moral. You're playing God in that.
I'm looking for what is going to cause the least amount of.
You're not even playing God. I would argue.
The lesser casualty. And
no, that. But
in my eyes, wait. Here we go. No. I'm so confused. Follow me.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Sure.
In my eyes. So, like, let's say I knew that, hey, these 5 people in this Honda Civic, they're pedophiles, right? And this one person over here is just...
in a Honda Civic? They're just tied to the train tracks. They're not...
Okay, they're tied to them?
Yeah.
Well, if someone took the time to tie them up, they probably want them dead.
Oh,
so
I love
now
that.
I should.
Love that. That's hilarious. But they also tied the one person up, too. No, they also tied the one person up, too, so it doesn't really make any... Like, your argument doesn't really make any sense.
Okay. I didn't know everyone was tied up.
Yeah, everybody's tied up.
I'm just thinking they're, like, in a broken down car on the track or something.
No, that actually and the trolley problem was like created like a really like long.
Well,
then
I need someone to call me and be like, you've got until 12 o'clock to make this decision. You know what I mean? Then I'm like, then Devo throws
is this fucking Die Hard with a Vengeance. Is that
remember they had to choose like which trolley
or which boat
was going to blow up, and then Debo was like, let me give me the remote. You know what I mean? And they toss it out the window.
No. So what I'm saying is you're making moral you're making it a moral thing, so meaning that like you're kind of contradicting yourself in a way that like you're saying at first you said, okay, well I'm saying this as many lives as I possibly can, right?
Yeah, but I don't value the lives of 5 pedophiles. So in my opinion, the life of like one decent person, I don't know what they've done in their life, but like if you tell me, hey, there are 5 pedophiles in this car and this person is just like a regular person.
Well, what if they're all fucked up? What if they've all done pretty shitty things?
Then I'm going to get rid of the most shitty people. I'm going to run over the 5.
Okay, what if it's different degrees? What if they're not pedophiles? What if they're convicted? What if they're convicted rapists, but the one person who's on the other track is a pedophile? All right.
Yeah, this is a good one. Interesting. This is a good one. That's a good one. So everybody in the Honda Civic, they're like all bad people?
I can't get over the fact a Honda Civic. I don't know why that's so entertaining.
Damn. Like they're all like convicted?
Convicted.
Like they all did it?
Like fresh out of jail. They were convicted. They just got out and somebody stuffs them in a Honda Civic.
Yeah. Now I'm going to.
Why does them escaping change anything?
Because how all 5 of them didn't get released at the same time. What is the state doing?
What
state are we in?
Florida.
Now, we're in Florida. Fuck. Listen,
everybody can go. In fact, I'd loop the train around so it can come back.
At this point, I just hope that other person skips over so I can just plow through the 6 of them.
No.
In that case, if they're bad people, here's the easy answer. If they're bad people, I'm going to get rid of the most.
What
bad
counts
people.
as bad people though?
If they've done something inherently like bad,
what counts as inherently bad?
Like a violent, non-drug related felony.
Like they beat somebody up?
Killed somebody, like kill, murder, rape,
What if
sexually assault,
it
pedophilia.
was somebody breaking into your house and you killed them?
Well, no, that's like, I can...
But you still killed
in some states you can, but like
ground law,
in that case, self-defense. Like, why'd that person break into my house?
What if you
don't break into houses if you don't get shot?
You're at a bar, you get into a fight somebody, they just take a nasty spill, but they just like fall a weird way and then they end up dying. Would you count that as like this is a person who's not worth saving?
Wait, so I'm in a fight with that person?
No. Let's say this person, this is why they're in jail. This is why they're in the Honda Civic and they're escaping from jail is because they got convicted of
murder, but the person at the bar.
But this is what happened during the murder.
Yeah, so that's a that would be considered like,
excuse me?
That's a non-violent crime because like, so I consider a non-violent crime is if I didn't enact the violent thing.
No, you punched somebody, they fell, and it's because they fell like on the corner of a table or some shit.
This
and
is
they
$1 million
baby. No. So it might seem like I'm just what I'm trying to say is that.
So I think that is a fight in which something very unfortunate happened, right? Meaning that person fell and that, there happened to be liquid on the floor that they slipped on the liquid.
But they still died nonetheless as a result, direct result of your action.
Or did I start?
You don't have that information.
Then, in my opinion, I consider that a non-violent crime. If I know that, hey, this person slipped on the floor was wet, they slipped on a liquid, and like they fell on the chair,
even though they still literally caused that person, like the person wouldn't have been in that position if they didn't initiate whatever. Like I'm not saying they initiated the fight, but if they didn't punch them or do whatever.
So there was an interaction, there was a fight. However, the cause of the death was not.
What I'm saying is this would all related to you would want to know all this in order to know which amount of people you should save.
Yeah, listen, you're the one giving me all these scenarios. Okay, I'm just saying if there's 1 or 5, I'm probably gonna kill the one. Now, if I have all this information and data, now I got to be like, all right, well, let's dive in. I got to read. Like I got to look at the profiles and shit.
But that's interesting because it's like, so if you don't know this at all, you would definitely pick saving to 5. But if you do have this information, then that would alter what you choose to do.
That's the circumstances with all things, right? It is based off of the amount of information I have is how I make my ultimate decision. Now, not knowing anything, I'm going to save as many people as possible. But if I know that, hey, what I'm saying is larger group of people is worse than this one, I'm going to save the one.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is then it becomes you're the arbiter of what is good and what is not. Then. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, if let's say God is real, right? If this is a part of His plan, this great test, and I got to make a decision one way or another, right?
What do you? I'm not sure what you mean.
So what we're talking about is like, some people say, you're playing God. Right? Well, is it not God who put me in this situation?
Okay, take God out of it. I don't know where we're going with that.
So what was your question then? I'm the arbiter of...
No. Yeah. being the arbiter of right or wrong isn't necessarily meaning to like that you're playing God, but it is that you're making judgments on what is right or wrong, and your perception of what right or wrong is would then guide the lives of those people. So you would then be weighing like, okay, well, how many people did you donate to? Like what charities did you donate to?
But again, I don't know. So I think to make this easier, I don't know anything about any of these people. I don't know who they are, whether they're good people or bad people, right? Whether they're like, they go to church every Sunday or they're like just escaping from prison. I know nothing. I've 30 seconds to make this decision because the train is barreling down the tracks. In that situation, I'm going to save as many people as possible. Or I'm going to.
You would choose.
I would choose the one. Yeah. That's that'd be an easy decision for me.
Really interesting. Yeah, I feel like it would be much more of a struggle for me.
You got 30 seconds to do it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it. Yeah, I'm saying it would still be a struggle for me.
I can't struggle with the 30-second decision. I got to make it.
Yeah, that's. I wonder why we see it so differently.
I think for you, like I think it feels like you're putting like the weight of the world on your shoulders. I have to make this ultimate decision, and my decision here is going to change the course of like you're putting a lot of pressure.
No.
You're in a shitty situation. You have to make a quick decision in 30 seconds. You know nothing about the situation. I think most people would. The right decision is to potentially minimize as many casualties as possible. So you have to go with the one. You have to. Otherwise, you're just gonna kill 5 people when
again. It depends on what your perception is of you've killed them, right? Like there's the one view of it is, yes, you didn't make a choice and that led to the death of these 5 people. But it's interesting that you view the person slipping as like, okay, that really wasn't my fault, even though you had a direct hand in them dying. But you view the 5 people on the track as different than that, though.
Well, here's how we view those things differently, right? Sure. And I think this is like what the battle in court would be, right? If I'm defending the person who is being charged for like this other person's death, right? My argument is like, hey, my client was in a physical altercation with this person.
Who are you in this scenario? You just described yourself as 3 different people.
I'm the defense attorney.
I'm the defense
attorney for the person who's being accused of murder by the state, right?
Yeah.
So in this situation, I'm like, my client did not kill this other person. It was an unfortunate circumstance. Maybe this is actually the bar owner's responsibility because there was.
So the bar owner killed the person?
Well, so how did the person die? They slipped, they fell, they hit the chair.
You hit them, and then they fell, and then they hit the side of the table
so
chair.
If the floor wasn't wet,
it wasn't wet. It wasn't wet. No. I'm saying you hit somebody, they fall, and the side of their head hits the side of the table, but it's not the punch that did it, it's the side of the table that did it.
So like my client is this self-defense? Like if that person attacked my client.
I'm saying my main question here, forget this, we're in a court.
But I think that would be a huge part of it. Is like, was I defending myself? I hit somebody, they slipped, they fell, they hit their head.
But it's interesting that you view that as like, morally speaking, you view that as like you not making a choice to kill them. But yet,
it's definitely not first-degree murder because that's premeditated.
I know. Okay, we're not actually in court. All right,
relax.
Relax. Okay,
I'm just trying to be very particular about this.
Fair enough. What I'm trying to say is, it's interesting that you view that so differently than the 5 people on the track. Meaning that in there, you're abstaining from making a choice. Meaning that you're not literally deciding to kill the one person. You're abstaining. Hey, I'm not going to. Somebody's going to die regardless, right? And I'm not having input on this thing. But you view that as you actively killing the people, even though you've abstained. But the punch you're viewing as like, oh, that's different though. Even though they both result in people dying as a result of literally your action, right? Is if you punch them, that's literally your action of. They wouldn't be in that position if you didn't punch them, right?
Yeah.
They'd probably still be alive.
And here's why. Because you presented 2 very different situations that are circumstantial, right? And then it is in those
very different.
It is in those circumstances. Like, for example, if someone breaks into your home.
No. Let's stick with you're at a bar, you get into a scuffle with somebody. Yeah. Let's use that one example.
That you're at a bar, you're in a scuffle with someone, you're in a different circumstance than the whole train circumstance, right? Very different. So
I understand that the actual scenarios are different. What I'm saying is, but the moral weight isn't different is what I'm trying to say.
The scenarios and the matter in which it happens is what changes the moral weight of it, right? If I'm in a bar and I'm in a fight with someone, let's say the person attacked me.
No.
Right?
No.
But again,
no. You're okay. Let's say you attack the person. Let's say you attack the person.
So now
you're arguing. The person says something you didn't like it, or let's say the person spits on you.
Yeah.
They didn't hit you. They didn't whatever. They just spit on you, right? And let's say your first reaction is just to hit them. You hit them, side of their head hits the table, they die.
I would claim self-defense, but again,
against spitting.
So it's technically assault. Yeah. If I spit on you, I'm something from my body. If I throw something at you, if I throw a rock at you, that's assault. If I spit at you, it's assault.
I know what you're saying for like
assault.
the legal.
So I would claim self. So again,
sure. But what I'm saying, what I'm not trying to argue is like let's wrap this up. What I'm not saying is whether it's legal or illegal.
Morally,
I'm talking about morally speaking that you view them really differently,
yeah.
even though they're kind of morally speaking, they're essentially like the same thing.
So the morality of it is like essentially you've killed somebody.
Or no,
right?
or I'm sorry,
you were a part of someone's death, right?
Or I'm sorry, they're not the same thing, but one is you actively doing something, doing an action that leads to somebody's death versus abstaining from it, meaning that you view the action as, defensible, meaning that like, hey, I was doing this for so and so reason, but yet you view the abstaining from something as like, oh, this is duh. Like if I abstain from it, I know I'm going to kill these 5 people. So I have to make the choice in order to kill this one person. But in the fighting, you don't view that as you murdering them. Like you view that as like, oh, I punched somebody, which I find like really interesting. Like that's a really weird way to look at it.
Morally, we talk about the moral weight of it. One is they're so very different. Like that is the thing that I'm having trouble understanding from your perspective.
So
why do you not see the moral?
You're a pretty strong dude, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So that means if you hit somebody, let's say it's like just a fucking weak person, right? Somebody who clearly has a glass jaw, right? Hit them. They don't even hit his side of the table. You just you deck them. They're done. They're dead. Are you then morally like? Would you still claim like it wasn't my fault because of X, Y, or Z reason, or would you view that as like, no, I made the choice? Like, because you would argue that the person who you're deciding to pull the lever for, you're arguing that you actively deciding this person's going to die.
So if I punch a person, they fall and they die, right?
Not even forget the falling. They just literally you hit them and they die from the punch.
I hit them and they die from the punch,
sure.
Right? Morally, I've taken someone's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, depending on if I just clock them out of nowhere, if I just sucker punch them versus if I'm defending myself, the moral weight of that is very different.
You're in an argument. Let's say they don't even spit on you. Let's say things just get so heated that you just took the first swing, right?
Yeah,
like they said something about they threatened somebody next to you, right?
Then I'm not only legally responsible, but also morally, I hold the full weight of it because it is my.
So
I acted first,
yeah,
and it is my action that was a result of taking someone's life. Now, if they acted first, it is me defending myself against someone else's actions, and I have the right to defend myself. So I carry very little moral weight if that person loses their life when they're attacking me.
My thing is, but it's interesting where you're choosing to carry the moral weight, meaning that you're like, it's a duh scenario for killing the one person and not the 5. What I'm saying is that you're not.
So going back to the train thing, here's what I think, and I'll just wrap it up with this.
Yeah.
I think the person who abstains from making the decision, that's cowardice because you're trying to morally save yourself, right? You're trying to protect yourself from making a tough decision, and you're choosing to either allow 5 people to die or because you don't want to make the decision to allow one person to die. So you're like, as long as I don't pull that lever, I'm not choosing to kill one person, and I'm allowing these 5 people to die because I'm afraid of making a decision because I don't want to morally carry that weight. I think at the end of the day, I think that's just cowardly. You would let 5 people die, and choosing not to make a decision is a choice. You chose to allow them to die, even though you could have saved them, but that means you would have had to take one life. You chose to let them die for your own self-righteousness or your own, I don't want to carry that moral weight. But like, would you actually sleep well with that? No.
But again, but the reason why because the consistent thing would be to say if you punch somebody and as a result they died from your punch is for you to still carry that moral weight because you actively or maybe the idea is
this is apples and oranges.
No, it's not. Let me finish my question. My question is, so are you saying there is no moral weight to you killing one person?
It depends on the circumstance.
No, like you don't. You have just as much information as you have no information. You just see the things.
Yeah. So
scenario.
morally, I've chosen one life over 5.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, but you yourself, do you have any sort of is there any?
No, this is not even about
thought.
morality. It's just logic.
No.
Rationale.
The actual action. I'm not saying which one would you choose. What I'm saying is but even for that one person, you're like that was crazy, and then move on.
It'll weigh on me. I'll carry that with me.
Okay, good.
But I think what it will be more wrong is to try and preserve my morality by not making the decision, by abstaining from making the decision.
What you're saying. I understand where you're coming from.
I would rather take one life consciously and say, hey, you know what? Like I did that thing to prevent as few casualties as possible, and I've made that decision morally, than to be like, I don't want to make a decision, so I'm going to allow 5 people to die. I think that should sit with that person consciously, like, you allowed it to happen. That doesn't make you a good person. In fact, you might be a worse person than the person who said, hey, you know what, I'm going to take one life over 5.
Yeah, that's fine. I thought you were saying was that you don't carry, like, that absolves you from the moral weight of killing one person.
Yeah. I think it would be impossible for it to absolve you of it. Like, you're going to carry it with, if you're like, unless you're a fucking psychopath.
Well, exactly.
You're going to carry it with you.
I thought that's what you were saying. So I was that's weird. Like, if you're thinking, or like if you're thinking like if I punch somebody and they die as a result of me punching them, I'm like, regardless of the legal whatever, I'm still going to carry that moral weight, right?
Yeah.
That I did an action, right, to result in these people dying. But I do see that as like different from abstaining from something.
Yeah, there was literally a movie about this. Remember the movie with like Denzel and Chris Pine with the runaway train?
I don't think anybody died as a result.
So the choice they had to make is to like derail the train and like potentially like kill themselves and like the few people that were on the train, or the train has to go around the curb.
Yeah.
I think they derailed it.
Oh, they derailed it, but they still lived. Like, what I'm saying is, it's not like the.
So it's like, do you kill this small town? Like, do you potentially kill a small town? Like 500 people?
But
like
there's a reason why they
Pittsburgh.
didn't. This example isn't like, oh, I'll self-sacrifice and like let the train run on me. It's because it's you're not the person in danger, but you're having to choose between very not great options.
Well, in this movie, Denzel had to choose: does he derail the train that he's on, going like 200 miles per hour, and like kill himself, Chris Pine?
Yeah, that's not the same. But I think there are a lot of people who would have no problem killing themselves if it meant saving an entire fucking town or some amount of people. That was like, if it was like 5, whether it's 5 people, 4 people, whatever the case is. It's like, I feel like generally speaking, we would choose to kill ourselves. At least that is less morally ambiguous than this trolley problem, right?
You're making like a me decision, not like am I willing to risk the lives of other people?
Yeah, because you're not sacrificing your own life, which is easy enough to be like, okay, that's the morally correct thing to do. Whether people actually do that or not, immaterial. But we all can kind of agree, morally speaking, it's right to sacrifice yourself than to sacrifice other people. That isn't in debate. What I'm saying is, for the trolley problem specifically, it's like I feel like there really is a difference between abstaining from something, meaning that this thing's going to happen regardless, and actually taking an action. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't pull the lever, but I'm saying there's something for me to think about there. And I think that what you're saying is there is no thought. You save the 5 people.
It's like, it's like the people who, like let's say you are watching a woman be attacked and raped, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, I don't want to get involved, right? I'm abstaining from making the decision to either help this woman or not help this woman.
Yeah.
I think someone who watches something terrible happen or allows something terrible to happen, you're not as guilty, but you're also like a shitty person. Like, you could have did something to prevent either.
What if you're another woman and you're just like really like, I'm just going to keep coming up with scenarios that like make it very hard.
That's a great question, right? Like, if you're, that's a tough one. I will give you that. But if you're a man in this situation and you're in a position to there's a story about this, right? About I think this happened like the 90s or the 80s, right? There was like a woman, she was being raped across the street from an apartment building. I think there were like 12 people who called the police, and who like essentially like watched this thing happen. I think the woman died as a result of it, right? So the question was, are those 12 people not equally responsible for her death, but are they like somewhat morally responsible for her death because of their lack of action? Like if any one of them would have like yelled out the window or ran down the steps and tried to save her life, she could have lived. But instead, they chose, hey, I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to abstain from making a decision because I don't want either having to run down there and hurt the person or to be responsible for her death. I don't want that on my conscience. So
I think that's I don't know. I think that's a tougher thing than just saying, because I feel like us as guys, and again, maybe this is why we float to like really like violent things to begin with, is because I feel like whether it's action movies or just like how we're fucking hardwired, period, it's like we have this thing where it's just like, I want to turn into a superhero and like fucking save the day. But in reality, it's just like there's so many other considerations. Like, so for instance, do I have a family with me? Is it my obligation? Who's my obligation to? Is it to keep my family safe or this person safe? Like, so say for instance, what if it's not 12 people, it's just you, right? You hear the person getting raped, but you have your family with you. Say, I'm just creating it for this argument's sake. You have your wife, kids, all around you, they're asleep. You hear this thing and it's out the window, and you know that there's a possibility that if you leave the house, that you don't know what else is going on, right? That maybe this is just one person being attacked, or maybe it's a group of people, right? Maybe it's a mob of people, right? You don't know. Is your obligation to that one person outside, or is it your obligation to your family to keep your family safe?
I think that in this situation, I'm going to act no matter what. And
but that's
so meaning I would like if I knew my like children were safe, like let's say
you don't know. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, but you said I'm in the house. I'm with my wife and my children.
Yeah,
right?
But you don't know what you leaving the house is then going to cause. Like, so for instance, what if the person, whoever's attacking this, you don't even know if it's a person getting raped. Somebody's getting attacked, right?
Yeah.
And you open the door. You have to open the door to the house to like leave it, right? And let's say you're in a rush, so you don't like you forget to like. What I'm saying is, if there's a possibility of danger to your family, let's say that actually is a legitimate possibility, is your duty to just run out and help this person, or is your duty to stay with your family and keep them safe?
I think in this situation, right, knowing as little I know as possible, I'm with my family and with my wife and the kids. We're in the house. We're safe, right? I'm going to go and try and help in some
Even
way.
though that might mean... And I'm not
because
saying,
like let's say it's 50% chance I could be putting my family in danger, 50% chance I could actually like help and do something about it and like save someone. I'm going to take that 50% chance and like try and help. For me, that's not really much of a decision. I'm not going to like sit with that. I'm going to act. Because I know that, let's say I put myself in danger, right? Let's say I get hurt in some way, I feel comfort and solace in knowing that like my wife who's with my children.
This is interesting.
There's somewhat of a...
Do you know why this is really interesting?
Why?
Is because this actually really is the trolley problem, in that there's a danger, somebody's getting hurt, and there's a possibility of multiple people getting hurt. But in the trolley problem, you pick to save the 5 people, like you not flinching. And in this, you pick to save the one person with the possibility of everybody getting in danger.
Yeah, but like if I hear someone outside of my house or like across the street from my house, or whatever, being like attacked, right? I don't think that means immediately that I'm putting my family in danger. There's a possibility
I'm creating,
of it.
I'm creating for the scenario that there's a strong possibility that if you open the door to that house, like it's literally happening like right in front of your house, and or somebody's outside here. And again,
I think morally, I'm going to go out and see what's happening.
This is the last one, I promise. Somebody's outside of your house and say, hey, I'm going to fucking hurt this person unless you open the door to this house right now, right? Well, what do? Do you open the door or not with your family still in the house? Somebody with a gun is like, I've got a gun. I'm going to shoot this person in the fucking head. Or they have just like a knife or whatever. And they're like, I'm going to stab this person. Are you opening the door or not?
No, stab him, shoot him. I don't give a fuck. I don't know who that person is.
Wait. So then what the fuck?
Because
I'm so confused.
So if they're outside of my house and they're saying, let me in or I'm going to kill this one person.
Yeah.
But if you let me in, there's a possibility that I can kill you and your entire family, which is more people. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to let you in. And if that one person has to die in order for me to protect and save the people in my house, then I'm choosing to allow this one casualty to happen.
No, but
possibility of saving the other people.
That's really interesting. So, because in both scenarios, what I assume that it is that you believe in your ability to shut the situation down that guides everything. But in this scenario, you weren't even like, you're like, all right, okay. Like there was no like.
Yeah, come on, dude. This is an easy layup question for anybody. Most people are going to say, hey, you're threatening to kill someone outside of my door that I don't know. Then no, my choice is going to be to not open up the door and at least keep safe or preserve the lives of the people in my home.
No,
that I do
but
know.
what I'm saying is it's interesting that, okay, the person has a knife. Let's say, because if they had a gun, it's obviously like a lot easier scenario. Not like, okay, what the fuck am I
if they have a knife, I'm like, bro, I don't know who you are. Fight back. Like, I'm not.
No. Okay. So, what I'm trying to point out is that it's interesting that you're not like, I'll go out there, I'll scrap with them. But in a scenario where there's somebody getting raped or whatever the case is, you're like, okay, like, let me just go out there like, it's interesting where you're choosing to be like, I'm going to act immediately without hesitation. Yeah. It's like, it's wild extremes, but
you know what it is? You know what it is?
Yeah.
And I think, I feel like throughout the course of this, you've been trying to find like the perfect circumstance that like creates the ultimate like complex problem that like will force someone to be like, damn, you know what? There's no right answer here. Mm-hmm. That's very difficult because all things are essentially circumstantial, meaning you can give me two situations that you feel are the same, right? But like, if the truth of the matter, for example, there's a bar fight, somebody dies, right? On the surface, that seems like, okay, that's cut and dry. But in reality, we know that I need to know like who started the fight, who died, right? The difference of those two circumstances greatly changes how I feel about the actions that ultimately took place and what happened. If someone at a bar attacks another person, that person defends themselves and then they kill the attacker, morally, they did something wrong. They took a human life, and I feel like that's going to sit with them. It would sit with me. But morally, I know that I simply was defending myself from someone's attack. But if I am the attacker and I kill the other person, morally, I know that, you know what, I initiated the violence and this person died as a result of it, and I carry all of the moral weight. And it's all circumstantial.
So your argument is that it just depends on the particulars of the situation, and that will guide what you do.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's my argument. I think that is just like the reality of the situation. Like it always is circumstantial. If you break into my house and I kill you, you broke into my house. Like, would you? I'm going to defend myself.
Yeah, because you could have not killed me.
But
like, I don't understand.
You could have not broken into my house.
No, true. But I think I would argue breaking into somebody's house is okay.
It's stupid as fuck, and you know that if they've got a gun, they can kill me.
Okay, so where does it stop? Is it your house? Is it what if you broke into somebody's?
Now,
hold on. Let me finish.
You're going to the car next.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're breaking into my car and I leave my house with my gun and shoot you and kill you,
how do you see those things as like wildly different scenarios?
The level of the clear and present danger. Okay. In one circumstance, the clear and present danger is minimal. You are outside of my house, meaning the greatest way to possibly protect myself and to preserve the lives of my family is to keep us inside the house and keep the danger outside of the house. Meaning, also you could the car.
Also, you could leave the house, right? Like, so if you have a family, somebody breaks in, you could leave the house. You could beat the shit out of them. You're saying that you like.
But let's say I beat the shit out of them. They fall, hit their head on the side of the table, and they die. Right? Like, again, they shouldn't have been in my house. I had the right to protect myself and my family.
I'm not talking
all costs.
Again,
inside.
This
my
isn't
home.
Like you keep saying it from like a legal standpoint. But I'm not arguing from a legal standpoint. The legal system is going to be what the legal system is. What I'm saying, morally speaking, is there a burden on you if you've made a decision to kill somebody when you had the choice not to? And what if you're pit between two equally very sucky choices? One is the person who's standing outside who's like, hey, I'm going to shoot this person unless you open up the door, right? You may not know that person, or let's say if you do that, what if it's another family member, right? Like, do you sacrifice? Okay, if it's like, if you have three children,
drug addict cousin trying to steal my car.
Okay, let's say they're not.
Do I like this aunt or do I not like this aunt? Because if it's the auntie that I like and her drug addict son is trying to steal my car, I shoot him in the leg. Auntie, he had it coming. We trying to get him in rehab.
So what I find interesting is that you're always. It seems like in all the scenarios, you're trying to find the thing that makes it morally comfortable for you.
No, I think the thing that you're failing to realize is that like in all of these situations, like what you're presenting,
I understand it's a circumstance.
Is a matter of circumstance.
I understand
right?
the circumstance.
And then the circumstances, it is what determines the level of morality that I'm going to bear in the event that I.
And what I'm saying is, in each scenario, you come up with a justification why morally it would be okay for the thing to happen. Meaning that in the case at the bar, you were like, well, unless I threw the first punch in all of the scenarios, then it was self-defense, right? Like if they spit on me, if they did anything, like it's like basically it's just an accident and it
yeah.
Whatever.
If someone assaults me, enters my property, my home or whatever in any particular way, right? Like if you hit me, you assault me, you attack me, I have the right to defend myself. And what happens after that, in my opinion?
Let's say car accident. It's a car accident.
Did I hit you or did you hit me?
Well, let's say neither. Let's say we're at a cross section and we both.
It's always somebody's fault.
Not necessarily. No. Like what if your
street lights are down.
Yeah,
we're all trying to turn.
Yeah,
right?
we can't communicate. Like we're barreling down the road 20, 30 miles an hour.
In that case, in that circumstance, whoever the attacker is, given a situation where all things are
fair.
Why
is there an attacker? You're both.
Well, didn't you say? You like? So I'm sorry. Let me finish your question. Because are you saying somebody died in this circumstance?
I'm saying somebody died. Like you're barreling down the road. Their lights are down, so you're not able to distinguish between whether you should go or shouldn't go. You just make the decision to go. You both make the decision to go. Clearly, it's the wrong decision. Car accident. The other person dies. You're saying. I think what you're saying is that there's no moral weight to that because you didn't like.
No. I think in that situation, right? I think here's where the moral weight would come from.
Mm-hmm.
If I saw that the lights were down, we know safe driving tells us to slow down, like slow the fuck down or stop, right? Before you make a decision. What you don't do is just barrel down the road and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go no matter what. And if whoever I hit, whoever I kill. Yeah,
but again, this falls literally in line with what I'm saying to you is that in every scenario, you're trying to find the moral reason, meaning that your justification now is, oh, well, it was
that's
the lights are
driving.
down.
That's you're that's
no,
literally.
I'm saying the
driving.
scenario is the scenario. The accidents, it's happened. It's already done, right? So regardless of if we all know we're supposed to slow down or whatever the case is, and it was reckless driving on both parts, right?
So both people were driving recklessly, right? So either one of them could have died. Now, whoever lives, you still bear the responsibility of reckless driving and like you're endangering another human life, endangering your own.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying is that there's a moral weight to that, right?
Of course.
Okay.
You're driving recklessly.
All right. The problem that I had with your answers to the all the other scenarios is that you're saying effectively what it count, even though I think you said the opposite of this, but it kind of sounds like you're saying that there really isn't that much of a moral decision to make. Like it's clear what should happen in this scenario. What I'm saying is that there's not. If there's somebody else standing outside of my house, I'll tell you that would be a hard decision for me to make.
Yeah.
Knowing that, okay, if the person, say there's a person standing outside my house, I don't know what kind of weapon they have. They're like, hey, I'm going to kill this person unless you open up this door. It's not as easy as for me to be like, oh, I'm not going to open up this door because there's a decision of like, fuck, okay, I don't know what weapon that they have. If I open up this door and they don't have any weapon, then I could have whooped this person's ass. And I chose not to because I was afraid, right? And that's what I think is what's kind of bothering me is because you're saying not making the decision, right, is cowardly, right? Where in the scenario of you protecting your family versus not opening up the door, there's a world where I would view that as cowardly.
Well, so I'm saying that I am making the decision to not open up the door
whether
in the event that means that person is going to die.
What I'm saying is
I'm doing the
idea, whether you're doing it consciously or you're doing both consciously, right? Like,
but one, I'm owning my decision, saying, "Hey, I'm not going to open up this door, even though I know this may mean that the person on the other side of the door, who's being held hostage or captive, is going to die because my priority is to preserve and to protect the lives of me and my family members." Right. So I'm doing that, and I own it 100%. The person who's like, on the train, who's like, well, I'm not going to push the lever or touch the lever because that means I'm making a decision, and my goal here is to not make a decision, to abstain from making a decision. I find that cowardly. If I say to the person on the other side of the door, hey, friend, I'm sorry, I don't know you, I don't know who you are, but I'm choosing to keep my family safe in this situation, I'm doing that consciously.
But aren't both decisions a cowardly decision? Meaning that like you chose not to potentially, like, what if the person doesn't really even have a weapon? You like, if you open the door and you could have just fucking beat them up.
Yeah, but
like,
I didn't know that, and what I'm not going to do. But
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's not cowardly. That's risk assessment. That's risk assessment. If you are on the other,
but with the pulling the lever, there isn't like a risk assessment. Like, what I'm saying is it's different. You're using different metrics based off of and I understand that you're talking about the different scenarios, but what I'm saying is like the moral center to it is like it's still the same thing. Like what I'm saying is, for me, it's not as easy of a decision because there's still moral.
All right, let's go through all these situations. You're on the train. What would you actually do?
What would I do? Like if I was to pull the lever,
the one or the 5.
Pull the lever or not pull the lever.
Yeah, pull the lever, kill 1. Not pull the lever, kill 5. Or 5 people die. I'm not gonna say you killed them. I'm just gonna say 5 people die if you don't pull the lever. What are you gonna do? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
I think
1.
I would pull the lever.
I already said 1. 5 people died. I'm
not you said 1. I pulled the lever.
So you pull the lever, you kill the 1 person. Yeah. God damn. Those 5 people are like Tunde. What the fuck?
That 1 person's like, I'm dead.
Yeah, rest in peace. Someone breaks into your house. You have a gun. Are you going to shoot them or not?
Shoot them or not? I think I would try to shoot them, but I would definitely like aim for something that's not like a vital thing.
Same. I would try and take the legs out.
Yeah. But again, you jump to the scenario where I'm just if I kill the person, oh well. Like I wouldn't think that.
So like what I'm not going to do if someone breaks into my house is just immediately shoot them in the head. Like if I see that they don't have a weapon or if they have like
but again, it sounded like you were trying to justify that of just like, well, if they broke into my home, like it is.
Well, I mean, listen,
like,
if I put 3 in your chest, I'm also still right for that too. I'm just saying that I'm going to try not to because you shouldn't have been in my house. You come into my house, like you know what could happen here. So, but anyway, I'm going to try not to kill you. Now, if someone is outside of my house and they're breaking into my car, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to try and like, hey, motherfucker, I see you. Flashlight. I got a gun. Leave my car alone, right? This literally happened the other night on my street.
And what did you do?
Chase him down with an
exactly.
But again, I'm just talking about me. Anyone who's listening to this is like this whole fucking long conversation is like, oh shit, that's
crazy. Fuck.
Anyway, let's get out of here.
Yeah, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a weird podcast, but it was an enjoyable one. I fuck with this one
for sure.
We'll be back at some other point in time. I don't know if we ever get our acts together.
These summer shows, take it when you get it. It's like a cookout.
Basically, yeah. You don't know what you're gonna get from week to week, but you enjoy it when you get it.
Yeah.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, fade out. My bad.
I usually say usual protocol, so I fucked that one up.